Good morning and welcome to our 45th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've joined us before, welcome back. And so the way the call works is you can ask me as many questions as you want to about anything you want, including business questions, career questions, personal questions. This is an AMA, ask me anything. And the call never ends until I've answered all questions. And so without further ado, I see there's a number of questions there in the queue, and let's begin, and thank you as always. Okay, so our first question here is from Kartik. Kartik saying hello. Hello, Kartik, how are you? Kartik is asking, if we purchase an asset on the last day of the financial year, can we claim depreciation? And for those of you not familiar with depreciation, it's a government tax mandate whereby the government incentivizes you as a consumer or a business to buy more equipment because they give you a tax break on it. And the way it works is this. Let's say that I made $100 this year in earnings. And let's say I bought this iPhone for 20 bucks. Then instead of me paying taxes on $100 in earnings, I would only pay taxes on 100 minus 20, which is $80. So if the tax rate is 50%, God forbid, then on $80, I would pay $40 in tax instead of paying $50 in tax. That's what depreciation is. And there's different depreciation rules in different countries for different products. And so in a lot of countries, you can depreciate hardware, meaning a laptop or a computer, over 2 years. In many countries, you can depreciate software over 1 year. And so what happens is sometimes there's a rush towards the end of the year to purchase equipment. If you have a budget in the government, they call it use it or lose it. And so, yes, if you buy a product towards the end of a calendar year, and if your country allows you to depreciate certain items, and please talk to a tax accountant first, then yes, you will get that tax benefit. It all depends, though, because sometimes you have straight line depreciation and accelerated depreciation. It's different for every type of product in every country, and the tax code changes quite often. But yes, theoretically speaking, you can get that deduction depreciation-wise if you buy the product, for example, towards the end of your fiscal year. And if anybody has questions about fiscal versus calendar years, please let me know. Thanks. Okay, next up, what is meant by collateral debt obligation default swap and quantitative easing? Yeah, so it's CDO. It's a type of debt instrument. I haven't actually used or heard of that term in a long time. I don't know exactly what it means, but I'm assuming it's just a debt product. If anybody in this call knows the ins and outs of collateral debt obligations, please let me know. In terms of credit default swaps, so in 2008, when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working, what happened was a lot of mortgage companies would basically allow people to buy houses that have awful credit. And then they package up that mortgage and then sell it off to somebody else. And it was insured by AIG and other insurance companies. And it's complicated, but what happened was these instruments were packaged together and were put into different financial instrument packages like credit default swaps. So that's part of that basket, so to speak. In terms of your question on quantitative easing, that means when the Federal Reserve chairperson in America, who's basically the manager of the store of money, that's when the federal chairperson cuts interest rates, meaning they put more money into the system by selling more bonds, or by buying back more bonds, I should say, increases the money supply in the economy. And by doing this, what happens is the interest rate goes down because the supply of money goes up. Like any other product on earth, whenever supply of a product goes up a lot, demand stays constant and the price goes down. And so quantitative easing is when the Federal Reserve chairperson, meaning the manager of money in America, for example, puts more money out there in circulation, so that what happens is interest rates go down. And when interest rates go down, then people get more loans to start companies. People also decide to invest more in the stock market, because if interest rates are really, really high, then I might as well just put my money in the bank and not invest in the stock market. But when interest rates are lower, I'm taking my money out of the bank, I'm investing more money in the stock market and investing more in starting companies as well. All right. Okay, so Kartik is saying, which website do you refer to for understanding the different documents required by a company for different things? So every country is a little bit different, and I don't know if you mean legal documents or financial documents, etc. If what you're referring to are financial documents, then what I can do is we can go together to a website called sec.gov, and so in every major market, governments mandate that you actually file your quarterly earnings as well as your annual earnings and anything material through press releases and automatic releases here on the government's website. So in America, it's called sec.gov. That stands for the Securities Exchange Commission. In Canada, it's called CEDAR. In other countries, it's called something else. And so what you can do is you can search here for filings. And the filings that most people look at, which I think you might be referring to, are the 10K, which is the annual report. Then there's the 10Q, which is the quarterly report. There's also a document that they have to file here called an S1 when a company is going public. And that's kind of like an annual report on steroids. It's much more information. And the last one I'll mention here is the 8K. And we'll look at all those in a second. The 8K is a press release. So whenever a company issues an earnings press release, for example, they have to also release it right here on sec.gov so that you and I can get the same access to information at the same time as the larger mutual funds and other institutional investment firms like pension funds and hedge funds. So if we go here and we enter the ticker for Facebook, FB is the ticker. We see there's a number of different filings here for Facebook. So this here is an 8K, which means it's a press release. So what we can do is we can click here on this press release, and then you click the top item here. It's not the most intuitive website, but this is how you navigate it. And then this here is an 8K, which means it's a press release or an important piece of information. And it looks like in this press release, they said that there's a departure of directors or certain officers. And you can read through this if you want to. And a lot of these 8Ks are quite short. Let's go back now and look at what's called a 10Q, which is the quarterly report for Facebook in this example. And companies have to, by law, release quarterly earnings reports, at least in the United States. In other countries like Japan, quite often it's every 6 months companies report earnings. So here we have the 10Q for Facebook. And in this 10Q, you'll see all the important stuff about the previous 3 months, meaning the last quarter that wrapped up, including the financial information, new risks, and other disclosures as well. And so you can read through this if you want to. And you can even do a search, Command F or Control F if you're using Windows. I'm on a Mac here, for the word risk. And you can read through all the different risks. And what I used to do when I worked in the hedge fund industry was I would take the most recent 10Q and I would take the previous 10Q and I would compare them both automatically within Microsoft Word. And of course, all the numbers changed, but sometimes new risks were added or new language was created by lawyers. So for example, in 2003, there was this awful crisis called SARS. And I remember comparing the quarterly report from the second quarter to the first quarter, and I noticed a lot of companies mention SARS as a new risk. Sometimes they'll change the language too. They'll say we are concerned about, and then if you do an auto compare, you'll see they change the language to we are extremely concerned about or we're very concerned about. So that's the 10Q. Let's now go back and let's look at what's called the 10K, which is the annual report. And please don't invest in companies without reading these reports. They're just a wealth of information. And in my courses, I teach you how to read these reports like a good book. So those courses of mine are the Introduction to Finance, Accounting, Valuation, Modeling, as well as the Complete Financial Analyst Training and Investing course. So let's look here at the 10K for Facebook. And so right here, you see that Facebook's fiscal year ended on December 31st, which is the calendar year. Sometimes companies have their accounting years end at different times. For example, retail companies end their fiscal years in January just to account for returns after the busy holiday shopping season. And so you can look through this document here. This is kind of like the 10Q, but much more detailed. And sometimes there's a nice long document or paragraph in there, actually a couple of paragraphs, where management will talk about the year in review. And you can also go to websites and read the annual report, which is usually a color glossy PDF or document. They sometimes mail them out still, which they shouldn't because it's bad for the environment. But you can read the management's discussion there in the first couple of pages of that report, as well as right here. The last thing you can look at here is you can look at what's called an S1, which I've typed before here, okay? So S1 is the IPO document for a company. And before a company goes public, they have to file what's called a prospectus. And I've got one right here when I worked at Goldman Sachs. Give me 1 second. Let me grab it. All right. So this is the S1 here for Goldman Sachs when they had their IPO. I worked there at the time back in 1999. I got basically very little shares, not much. But this document here highlights all of the risks and the important information about Goldman Sachs so that you can make an informed decision as to whether or not to buy one of these 69 million shares in their IPO, which was in 1999. And so on this S1 prospectus, you get a lot of great information like risk factors, use of proceeds from the IPO, the dividend policy of the company, as well as a lot of financial statements and the management discussion and analysis of the financial conditions and results from operations. And on the cover of the IPO documents, what you usually see is you see the companies that took this company public. And usually there's something called top left, which is prestigious. It's the firm leading the IPO. And there's top right, which is the firm that is not leading the IPO, but it's very important as well. And then there's a number of other firms below that are involved in the syndicate for taking a company public. Now, Goldman Sachs, when they took themselves public, they, of course, got help from other investment banks. And I'll tell you why in a second. But they were the lead book runner. There's no top left and right, just Goldman right here. Okay. And so what happens is there's a number of other companies, wow, a lot of these don't exist anymore, that worked on this IPO with Goldman, including Bear Stearns, gone, Lehman Brothers, gone, Credit Suisse First Boston, we should call it Credit Suisse now, DLJ, Merrill Lynch, which merged with Bank of America. Wow, a lot has changed here, man. And a bunch of others as well. JP Morgan, Smith Barney, which was bought by Citi. Wow, a lot of changes. This is like a history lesson too. But the reason why Goldman Sachs and all companies going public have many investment banks working on the IPO is because many investment banks have distribution channels to investors all over the world that the lead book runner like Goldman might not have, for example. And so, for example, we've got here, let's see, if we had, let's say we have Credit Suisse here, actually, this might work out here, this explanation. So let's assume Credit Suisse has better access to Swiss clients because it's a Swiss company. Well, it merged a bunch over the years. It's more than just that. Well, that's why it makes sense to have multiple companies here running the books and in this syndicate. And so if you have additional questions about S1 documents or IPO prospectuses or company filings, please let me know. Thank you. Okay. Let's go back here. Go back to Big Chris mode. I got a new angle here as well. There we go. How you doing? All right. The next question is, let me just shut this down. Sorry about that. I just had a little bit of a browser issue. All right. Hold on 1 second, guys. I got to open up the browser again because I have all the questions there and I went to sec.gov from that browser. Thank you for your patience. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. YouTube. So you'll note, this is me buying time, by the way. You'll notice I've got the bokeh effect, which means I have a low f-stop on my lens here. Big depth of field. You can see behind me that stuff's blurred as well as these lights a little bit. And this stuff here, which is kind of a nice effect. Okay. I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to buy time here. It's not working. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up the questions there. Sorry, guys. All right. I am on YouTube now. Creator Studio Classic. I'm clicking on live streaming. Sorry about this. I'll be there in a second. All right, screw that. I'm going to go to my website and pull it up that way. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. So if you go to my website, Haroun Ventures, you can get information on the upcoming MBA Degree Program, as well as access to my courses at the lowest price you'll ever find them. I'm done with the infomercial part. Okay, good. I'm back. I see your questions. All right, let me just sort the questions quickly in terms of live chat. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back now. Great. So the next question is, which website should we refer to for understanding the different documents required by a company for different things? I just answered that question. I just had a senior moment because I read that question twice. The older I get, the better I was. Okay, next one is, what are the top 5 soft skills and 5 hard skills needed to be successful? So when you learn business, there's quantitative and qualitative skills. And a lot of business is common sense, but accounting and finance is not. They're like different languages. And so those are the most important quantitative skills I think you can learn. It's also important to have a basic understanding of statistics as well as general portfolio management, so that you can quantitatively understand what your risk exposure is from a portfolio management perspective. And from a statistics perspective, it's important too, because you might be surveying a new market using SurveyMonkey, which I use quite often. You might be surveying a new market to understand if you should penetrate or enter a new market. And it's great for marketing data as well, and just analyzing customer trends as well as the total addressable market. So those are some of the quantitative skills that are important in business. And of course, I teach all those in my courses, which you can access from my website. In terms of the qualitative skills, there's a lot of frameworks that I like to teach about. And for those of you with business degrees or you study business in school, after you finish each course, I want you to think about one framework that you learn that you can apply from a qualitative perspective. So if you took a strategy course, it might be a SWOT analysis, which means analyzing a company by looking at SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you took a marketing course, you might analyze a market by looking at the Boston Consulting Group matrix, which analyzes companies in terms of market share and growth as well. I can go into more details on that if you'd like me to. The other soft skills I think that are incredibly important are interpersonal skills and the ability to network. And I have a free book on my website. Go to harounventures.com. You can download a book for free on how to network. And those are probably the most important soft skills you can learn in business, because I humbly believe that business is about relationships first and product knowledge second. Other soft skills include how to sell, as well as how to present, how to give a presentation. And I teach a course called the Complete Presentation Course. You can get access to all these courses at harounventures.com. Thank you. All right. Time for a camera change and a little bit of coffee here. Okay. And by the way, for my MBA degree program, what we're going to do, which if you're not familiar with, you can go to my website, harounventures.com, and then you can just go to the MBA tab and read about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it more interactive than this. We're going to use different software messaging products so it can be real-time back and forth conversations with my students. And that launches on December 2nd. Okay. Next up is Jacob. Jacob, how are you? Jacob is saying, hi, Chris. You talked about putting work life aside as soon as you touch the door handle when coming home. I love that. Thank you. Do you have any tips on how to get a wife or a spouse to switch off from work? Cheers. Yeah. So what Jacob is referring to is a couple of weeks ago on my webcast, I mentioned how it's so important to detach from work when you get home. And for me, I used to walk in the front door, and Matthew, who was my middle child at the time, he would say, "Daddy, do you have a good day or a bad day?" And I was always very nice. And, I tried to put on a happy face always when things weren't great, of course. You don't want to bring the kids into that. But if I said, "Oh, it was an okay day," then he would turn around and go, "Oh." And then if I said it was a great day, he would say, "Can we play baseball in the backyard?" And there's nothing better than playing catch with your kids. And so what I decided to do was I decided to meditate and condition myself so that when I touch the doorknob on the house when I come home, immediately work leaves my head and work doesn't enter my head again, at least when I work for other people. Now I do what I love, so it's a little bit different. But work would not enter my head again until I touch the doorknob to leave the house. And you can do this. You can condition yourself. A lot of professional athletes will meditate and think about them making that basketball shot over and over and over again, for example. And what that does actually is it conditions you to, think positively as well in terms of executing perfectly or flawlessly, I should say, within sports. So in terms of your question, Jacob, about how to get your spouse to switch off from work as well, you can ask your spouse if they want to try this methodology of touching the doorknob. If that doesn't work, then what you can do is, you can set certain times to talk about business if you want to. You don't have to schedule it like that. But I do different things, man. Like what I do is when we go out to dinner as a family, what we do is my kids and I and Christine, we have to all pile up our iPhones in the middle of the table. So it's like a big stack. It's not easy to do. The kids complain because they want to play Clash of Clans. Sometimes I do too. But if you stack them up together, then that kind of lets everybody know that we got to just detach and unplug from the rest of the world and just focus on our family, because nothing's more important than that. So you might try that hack with your kids or your family if you want to. And what I find with Christine, my wife, is that in order to reconnect, it's tough when you have kids. So when you first get married, it's all about you and your spouse, obviously. And then when you have kids, you both kind of focus much more on the kids. And what happens is a lot of times, and this has not happened to me, but a lot of my friends it has, when the kids get older and they leave, then a divorce occurs because they realize, husband and wife, that they didn't connect and they're not the same people as they were, and they don't know each other as well as they did when they first got married. And so one way around that, I think, is, especially for those of you just having kids now, just try to have date night once a week. I'm smiling because I'm thinking of the movie with Justin Bateman, Date Night, which was hysterical, but or that was called Game Night, sorry. But when you do date night and you go out, just reconnect with your spouse that way. Just reconnect. And, in my family, I try to make Sunday a family day. And my parents did the same thing with me growing up, and my brother James and sisters Katie and Elizabeth. So on Sundays, no one's allowed to have friends over, and it's just family time. And for us, we go to church, we go to lunch and that sort of thing. And we kind of reconnect that way, and there's no talk about work. Especially for me, I'm not allowed to work on Sundays. It's a sacred day. And for thousands of years, our forefathers and foremothers have known that, you'll burn out if you work 7 days a week. And so one of the 10 basic rules, which is the basis for our legal system and for many great religions, one of the 10 basic rules is to rest at least 1 day a week. And reconnect with your family that way. And maybe, Jacob, what you can do is you can have a policy in your house, if you want, whereby you don't talk about money or, which can be stressful, I get it, or anything business related on Sunday. It's a family day. All right. And if I didn't answer your question properly, please let me know. I don't feel great about my answer for you. It's hard. If it really stresses you out that someone you're close to talks about work a lot, then maybe you can just bring it up and say, hey, why don't we discuss work not during dinner? During dinner, let's focus on each other, getting to know each other even better, and talking to our children, understanding how their day was, and just that sort of thing. So, yeah. All right. Next up, and I remember when I was a kid, I'll never forget this. My parents were awesome. Sometimes your parents do things and you kind of question them when they do stuff. Then later on, years later, you're like, God, they're right. Like your parents, remember that dude that your parents didn't want you to hang out with because that person did drugs? And you're like, no, they didn't, but they actually did. It's like that. And my parents, I remember one summer, my brother and I got into a bunch of fights, just arguments, whatever. He's great. He's never laid a finger on me. He's the best. Love you, Jamie, if you're watching, which he's not. He's busy working. But I remember we were fighting a bunch. And my dad, what he did was, I'll never forget this. It was like 1980. I was 8 years old. So the entire month of July that year, my dad made my brother and I go in the backyard from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. every day. And of course, we could eat and all that stuff too, and just spend time together. And we built amazing sand castles. We had a little sandbox, and just a lot of fun. We reconnected that way. So sometimes there's got to be some element of forced family fun, FFF, in order to help the family bond much better. And I believe that if you're happy at home, if this is full, this will be full as well. This will work much better. I don't think you can be successful and happy in business without a wonderful marriage. I don't think it's possible. And it's tragic that a lot of very successful and wealthy people have 3, 4, 5 marriages. It's just wrong, in my humble opinion. All right. Next up is EJ. EJ, how are you? EJ is saying good morning. Good morning. I haven't been available over the last few weeks. I've been traveling. I hope things are going well. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And were you traveling in Japan? Because I remember you told me a while back that that's kind of the basis for your first name, EJ. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. Okay. And Fujimori-san, if you're on the call, good to see you, bud. Good to see you. Fujimori joined us for the first 10 or 15 calls or so. Okay. So, and Kunal is saying, good morning, Chris. Good morning. Could you suggest some good books on investing? Sure. So I get this question a lot, which is why I included it back here, and I actually included a couple books here. So one of them is called The Intelligent Investor, which was written by Benjamin Graham. And so Benjamin Graham was a professor at Columbia University in New York, and that's why Warren Buffett went to Columbia. Because of this dude here, Benjamin Graham. And this book, it's a little bit dry, to be honest, but it's a great book. And it basically tells you how to value companies and how to think longer term. And this is Warren Buffett's favorite book, obviously. And when Warren Buffett came and guest lectured when I was at Columbia years ago, his wife, God bless her, she passed away, but his wife mentioned that day she was in the classroom that Warren Buffett actually brought this book with him on their honeymoon. So this is a great book about investing. Again, it's a little bit dry, but I think it's worth checking out. And I've got another book here I haven't really talked about much before, but I wanted to mention it on this call. So there's a book called When Genius Failed, and I want you to all read it because what happened was in 1998, there was this company called LTCM, which stands for Long-Term Capital Management. And what happened was they were the smartest people in the world, or so they thought, or so their investors thought as well. And they had Nobel laureates, Nobel Prize winners, the who's who, start this company. And it was a spectacular failure. They invested in fixed income instruments, meaning bonds, currencies, etc. And genius certainly failed. And I bring this up and I harp upon this because I don't ever want you to take anybody's advice when it comes to stocks or any investments. I always want you to do your own research. Nobody's smarter than you. And I believe that. What we believe, we achieve. Perception becomes reality, like the Rodin sculpture. So if you want for homework, do a search on YouTube on Steve Jobs Smarter Than You, and that video will change your life. It's a short video too. But this book here kind of reinforces the fact that you've got to do your own research all the time. Never rely on anybody else. Otherwise, what happens is if you buy a stock and you rely on somebody else and the stock goes down, you'll sell it, right? You'll panic sell. And it's ridiculous because, Warren Buffett said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Imagine that. Imagine your favorite product going down in price and you don't want to buy it now. Doesn't make any sense. If you do your own research, your own thorough research, you'll be a stockholder. You'll be there longer term. You won't be a tourist in that stock. You won't be renting it. You'll be a long-term owner. And when Warren Buffett buys a stock, he assumes that the stock market could be closed for 10 years. He doesn't care. He's that long-term focused. I want you to do your own research and never rely on anybody else. Don't rely on me. And I'll never tell you what stocks to buy. I'll teach you how to fish humbly, but I'll never give you a fish. And if you want to learn about how to analyze companies and make investment decisions. There's two courses I have, the complete personal finance course, as well as the complete financial analyst course. And you can go to my website and you can always get my courses there for the lowest price, harounventures.com. You can check them out. 30-day money back guarantee, as always. Always do your own research, please. And if you ever see something called sponsored stories on a website, don't read them, because somebody is biased and paid to write something to influence you. And I also don't advise watching financial television ever, because there's a lot of interviews with people that are very articulate. CEOs and founders of companies are the best salespeople in the world. That's what they are. They're salespeople. And they're going to get you excited about their company. And I don't want that to happen to you. I want you to always do your own research and just understand that in business, whenever you hear somebody talk about a stock or any investment, understand that they're biased. If the CEO is talking about his or her company, obviously they're going to say good stuff and get you excited. And they got to the CEO position, they rose to the ranks because they're great at sales. They have great interpersonal skills. So just do your own research, always, always, always. And a lot of times I'll have people on financial television or the news talking about stocks, and they own those stocks. And so they'll bias you to be positive. Just tune out the media completely and always do your own research. And I promise you that will make you longer term focused, and you won't be, this won't occur to you when genius failed. And another book I actually have down here is called Fooled by Randomness. This one's kind of tough to read. They didn't do a great job with the cover, although it's a good book. And so Nassim Nicholas Taleb wrote this. He's a Lebanese dude. I'm a quarter Lebanese, represents. A really smart guy. And this book here will convince you never to be a trader, because there are no successful traders in the long run. It all ends badly because we don't know the names of any successful traders, but we do know the names of a lot of very long-term investors. And so be very long-term focused. Please, please, please ask yourself a basic question before investing in any company, which is this. In 5 years, will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And that will make you not panic if the stock market crashes. You'll be excited so you can buy more of your favorite stock. And for more details on this, you can take my complete personal finance course or the complete financial analyst training course. So these are just a couple of the books that I recommend checking out. If you're an accounting person, you can also check out a book called Financial Shenanigans by Howard Shillett. And it's a good read on looking for patterns within financial statements to tell if things are not going well. And what I love to do is I love to actually create charts. A picture kind of tells you a million things. I butchered that saying there, what I'm getting at. But I like to create a lot of charts in Excel of income statements and balance sheets and just look for trends. Because an object in motion will stay in motion for quite a while. Okay, so if you see revenue accelerating, it usually continues to accelerate in the future. The second it decelerates, revenue usually never accelerates again. And so private companies usually have revenue growth that's accelerating. And once private companies have their revenue growth still positive but decelerating, that's when the venture capitalists usually give that company to the investment bankers that take public, because most companies, this is the last thing I'll say on this, most companies that are publicly traded, yes, they have positive revenue growth, but revenue growth is decelerating. It's slowing, especially for the big companies. And if it's growing at one point, again, it's usually because they bought another company, which means it's not organic growth. All right. Next one is, do you think the market is going to crash again within a year or two, given the situation of student loans? They're just being piled up, and there is so much, there's not much indication that they're being paid up, and auto loans, as anyone can buy a car now, and the same thing that happened with the housing market. Yeah, so I don't think so. I think that we learned our lessons from 2008, and so. Yeah, credit is readily available. Interest rates are still relatively historically low today. But governments, I should say, have kind of tightened up, the credit markets, meaning can anybody get access to a loan even if they have poor credit? They can't anymore. And I even remember it was tough in 2008. I had to refinance my mortgage. And interest rates were cut significantly. Ben Bernanke cut them to basically zero. And then what happened was I went to the bank to get my mortgage refinanced, and they wouldn't give it to me. They wouldn't give it to me because, I ran a hedge fund. I had enough money, whatever, but, it was tough. And I got down on my knees. And thank you, Wells Fargo. They actually gave me it eventually. So it's tougher to get credit for those that have risky startups. But no, I don't think we're going to see a crash. And if we do, then I'm going to use a lot of my dry powder, and I'm going to buy the heck out of the market and my favorite stocks. You always want to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. And if I were you, if you want, tune out the media entirely. It's tough because what's happening now is I look at the younger generation, my kids, for example, and they don't watch television. They watch YouTube. They watch these things here. And so what happens is these kids are getting older, and they're consumers now, and they don't watch television. And so what happens is a lot of these companies, in order to get money, they have to basically create these really scary headlines that will, they'll hook you. It's clickbait. So I would just tune all that stuff out if you can. And I think the younger generation is much more positive than my generation was or is, because we grew up, during the Cold War. We grew up, 9/11, all these terrible things. And breaking news occurred all the time on television. But my kids are not around TVs ever. So they're not really, in front of all that negativity. So I care deeply about the world, but I still tune everything out. And that way I can kind of think longer term and make my own investment decisions without being biased. Try it, man. Don't watch TV or the media for a week and watch what happens. You'll probably be a more positive person, and you'll have more time to not worry about stuff you can't control. You'll have more time to actually focus on what makes you happy in life, or your business model, or your current job, or getting promoted, etc. Yeah. So I'm a little bit more positive. I think good things are happening. I think things are great. But just understand the media, because they can't make as much money from advertisements anymore. The clickbait stuff is just brutal, and the shock value stuff. So. All right. Next up is John Clee is asking, what's my opinion on Malkiel and the EMH theory? Is that the efficient market hypothesis theory? I can't remember. When it comes to finance theory or economic theory, I don't teach it. And a lot of it, I don't really use it because a lot of it is just theoretical. When I was in business school and during my undergraduate business degree, we studied supply and demand graphs a lot. And I've never used that stuff. I mean, I guess that's important if you want to be an economist, right? But I don't. It's common sense for me to tell you that if there was a shortage of these things, if supply went down a lot, then the price of these would go up a lot. On eBay, people will want to buy these at a premium, for example, at supply and demand. I don't really believe in all this economic theory, the Laffer curve and all that stuff. It's interesting. But it's a little bit theoretical, and it's tough to really apply in the real world. And so I pride myself on teaching based on my real life work experience, and less so the theoretical stuff. Yeah. All right, Daniels from Canada. Good morning, dude. I'm back in business. I hope you're having a great summer. I am. Thank you. I am. Been working hard on my complete video course, complete YouTube course, and most importantly, my MBA Degree Program as well. And I could show you a quick little snapshot, if you care, of what the complete video course looks like. We wrapped up one shot yesterday, which it blew my mind. It was amazing. It was fun. I'm a camera nerd now. So no, summer's been great, but more importantly, the kids are great. We're going to Barcelona soon. If anybody is from Barcelona, let me know, and we'll hook up there. Maybe we'll do a meetup, and then we usually go to Toronto in the summers as well to see my family. Yeah. All right, Liberté et le Sœur has a question. Good morning, sir. It's 4 p.m. here in London. Excellent. How are you? And Major League Baseball, I think they're playing today. The first game there between the biggest rivals in baseball history, the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees. So check it out if you can. All right. Next up, Prashant is saying, hello, Chris. How are you? I'm great. Thank you for asking. And then we have Jason, my buddy from Australia. He's saying, g'day, Chris. I'm thinking of Paul Hogan right now in Foster's beer commercials, the big beer, La Grande Bière. The question is, should one receive an auto confirmation when submitting admission essays online for your MBA application? Yeah. So we've sent out emails to people that have applied. And if you've not gotten an email for some reason, then please send an email to admissions@harounventures.com. And then Wrigley will get back to you with that right away. Yeah, thanks. And check your junk folder as well. It might be in there. I think, and Wrigley, if you're on the call, Wrigley, if you can let us know just if we receive Jason's application. Thanks. And I'm going to keep this MBA degree program quite small initially. So we've gotten a ton of applications. I want to keep it small because I want to give you enough, one-on-one time. And in the first month of the course, or the MBA degree program, which starts December 2nd, we're going to make your resume and your LinkedIn profile unbelievable. And we're going to do it together. And I want to have hands-on time with you all. I want one-on-one time. I want to do video calls with you one-on-one. And I want to get to know you a little bit better and humbly help if I can take your career to the next level by helping you with your resume initially, LinkedIn profile, and you're going to learn so much more as well. And I'm doing so much of this video stuff here. It's not just to make the complete video course. What's more important to me is to be able to make a difference by teaching from an edutainment perspective. So I have to do it. I got to show you guys. Hold on one second. I want to show you what this course looks like. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. If you want to go grab a coffee, if you're not interested in this sort of thing, grab a coffee right now. But I work so hard on this, and I want to see if I can show it to you. All right. QuickTime Player. Open recent. I'm such an idiot. I got to plug in the drive. I'll do it later in the call. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, it's fine. Another senior moment today. I unplugged the drive. I can plug it in. If you guys want to see it, I can show you what it looks like. I teach you how to make a studio like this from scratch. It's really important for me to teach you how to do this because, and you'll learn this in the MBA Degree Program, but you only have one chance to make a first impression. And if you have a great video backdrop like this, and I'll teach you exactly how to do it, then the quality of your Skype calls, your online interviews, your online business meetings, your whatever calls you have with business partners will go through the roof. People will be impressed. And I teach you in the complete video course and the MBA Degree Program course as well, how to get perfect audio as well as the background. And this is not expensive here, man. All this is cardboard wall. And the floor, it looks like I have a hardwood floor. They're actually 3 8x4 feet panels that are $10 each. This is just cardboard. But anyway, and this here, I've got these little cheap General Electric lights in the background. And then I changed the focus on one of my cameras to make it look dope. But I'm going to teach you all how to do this so that when you have that Skype interview or business meeting, it looks great. It looks great. And I'll teach you about lighting as well. And I've learned a lot making this course when one teaches to learn. But I'm doing this also because I want it to be really, really entertaining for the MBA degree program as well. And when we have guest speakers here. All right. Sorry for not being on the ball today. All right. Next up is Kyla is saying, good morning, Chris. Good morning. Excited to be here. Thank you. Can you speak a little bit on forming an LLC as a single owner? To my understanding, when doing this, your entity is treated as an SP. Yeah. So for those of you not familiar with it, this all differs based on what country you're in. But an LLC stands for a limited liability corporation. And what that means is if you register a company of yours as an LLC, and please talk to a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, then what happens is if you get sued, then there's a higher probability that the person suing you can't come after your personal assets. It's like getting an insurance policy. And you have to register your company. Please, 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 please do so if it's making money. if you want to turn your side hustle into your full-time gig. Because if you don't and you get sued for whatever reason, maybe you have a store, somebody falls down, gets hurt, or for whatever other crazy reason, then you're personally liable. You're personally liable. And so, again, please talk to a lawyer first. Don't just rely on my advice. And the way to get access to cheap lawyers is, and I'm not sponsored by any company, but I've done this. I go to LegalZoom.com. And at LegalZoom.com, you can set up a call for $30 for half an hour. And they'll explain to you all the ins and outs of the different legal structures. Like, should you set up as a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC? And I'll let you talk to lawyers about that. But if you have more specific questions, ask me, but I might just defer you to talk to lawyers. Thanks. All right. Next up is, how do you make sure that you make it in life no matter what? So the question is, how do you make sure that you make it in life? Okay, so that's all kind of subjective, but what I recommend doing is writing down your goals often. And when you write down your goals, write down a deadline date as well, because 90% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions because they actually didn't write down a deadline date. 90% of people give up in the first month of the year. They didn't write down a deadline date. So I want you to come up with long-term goals. I want you to write down the deadline date, and I want you to put it on your calendar on your Android handset or iOS device and have it repeat daily. Make it a private entry if you share calendars. And that's the first thing you should see every day when you get up, is that those goals. And I want you to be ambitious with your goals and set crazy high goals so that it seems impossible for you to reach them. So you grow into the person that can achieve those goals. And James Cameron, the wonderful Canadian director of the Terminator 1 and 2, and now Part 3, which is coming out soon, he said that if you set your goals so high and you fail, you still fail above everyone else's expectations. So what I want you to do is I want you to go on a long walk by yourself. And I want you to bring just a notebook or your mobile handset. And I want you to just think about where you want to be in 10 years. And write down your goals. And as part of my MBA Degree Program application, I have all my students write that down as well. Because what's the point of getting a degree if it's not going to help you, achieve your goals in life? And write down those goals and update them often. And I promise you, you got to be careful, because you will get what you wish for. You will get what you wish for. And I've been doing this for a couple decades now. And I went back recently and I read these goals I wrote down on 10 cue cards on the back and the front. You can get those business cards that you can print on your printer using Avery labels. I bought those. And what I did was I made 10 business cards, double-sided printed, with all of my goals. I can show them to you at some point if you're interested. And I went back and read them recently. And I achieved, humble to say, every goal in my life, except for one. And that one goal is getting a black belt in karate, because I got into a car accident in 2008. Everything's fine, but I'm a pretty badass orange belt. But I'm still going to get my black belt somehow in life. But just write down your goals, and even like Amazon, like Jeff Bezos does this. And one of the reasons why Amazon's so successful is every year Jeff Bezos tells all of his product managers on, the Kindle product, Prime, AWS, etc., to write a press release that's going to come out 1 year in the future. And that basically is a goal-setting workshop. So write down your goals and make sure you set ridiculously high expectations. Aim for 100% on that test of yours, and you'll get 95, that sort of thing. And update your goals often. All right, next up is, why do people end up in a rat race? Okay, so the question is, how can you not end up in a rat race? Yeah, so sometimes you got to kind of step aside and see the forest from the trees, and just understand what's important to you in your life. If you focus 100% of your efforts on business and getting promoted, whatever it is, and you sacrifice your health or your relationship with your friends and family, or God, if you're religious like I am, then what's the point? What's the point? Sometimes you got to take a step back and look at the forest from the trees and understand why we're here. And what's important for you. What's important is you want to be happy. And if you're doing something that makes you miserable, then change it, move. You're not a tree. So, focus on what makes you most happy in life. And if you're not happy now, as part of a goal setting workshop, write down your 10-year goals. And those 10-year goals, every single one should be along the lines of what will make you happy. Maybe it's being independent, starting your own company. And I pride myself on helping you, my students, my customers, on starting your own company, which is the basis, the crux of my MBA degree program and my course called called the Complete Business Plan course. So your goal setting workshop should involve what's going to make you happiest, and always focus on the trees, or on the forest from the trees. And on Sundays I go to my religious institution. I'm Christian, doesn't matter, but I go, and sometimes I'll sit there, and sometimes I'll daydream a bit. I know it's wrong. I should be focusing on what the priest's saying, but I'll kind of assess my life. I'll do kind of like a mental checkup, so to speak, on where I am in my life. Like every week I'll do that. I'm like, am I getting closer to my goals? Am I happy? Am I a good father? Am I a good husband? Am I a good teacher? Am I a good friend? That sort of thing. And so I kind of, at least once a week, I try to look at the forest from the trees. And the Dalai Lama, and this is the last thing I'll say on this, the Dalai Lama had a great quote. And you got to read his book called The Art of Happiness. It really is amazing. But the Dalai Lama said that the problem with Western society is that we sacrifice our health, our entire lives in order to make money. And at the end of our lives, we sacrifice all of our money in order to maintain our health. And then we look back and we realize we never really lived to begin with. So you got to, every now and then just kind of look at the forest from the trees and just reassess where you are in life. And is everything you're doing making you a happier person or not? And are you living your life on your own terms for yourself, and not just trying to please somebody else? Otherwise, you'll always be their prisoner. Okay. And if this is helpful, if you guys like the background, the setup, please click the like button. Thanks. Okay, I got 3 down legs last week, and so I'm not going to teach outside for a little while. Obviously, people didn't like that very much. Okay, and I taught by my pool last week. All right, next up is focus and concentration different? How do you differ them? Yeah, so I'm smiling because I saw a joke recently of some guy went to the grocery store, and on the side of the orange juice container, those orange juice thing, it said concentrate. And so he's going like this, looking at the product. Bad humor, sorry. So focusing, I think, is kind of assessing in life and prioritizing, what's most important to you from a high level perspective. It's kind of like seeing the forest from the trees. I think that concentrating is kind of like looking at individual trees, really concentrating on one thing at a time, and just changing your environment, just to make it more amenable to, your goals. So for me, for example, I believe that music sets the soundtrack of your life. And so we are a product of our environment. And so I love to listen to classical music from Chopin, or from movies like Hans Zimmer stuff. Hans Zimmer's a great composer. And that really helps me concentrate when I'm working on one task at a time. But in terms of focusing, I see the forest from the trees every Sunday when I go to church, whatever. I kind of focus on just bigger picture stuff, and all of that focused stuff is to make the world a better place if I can, be a better father, better husband, better person, better, uncle, and that sort of thing. And just, am I happy or not? And if I'm not, what would make me happier? Because our goal in life should obviously be to do whatever we can do to be happy. Because if you're happy and you have love in your heart, then this works out much better and you can contribute much more to the world. All right. All right, next up is, and if I miss anybody's question, please let me know here. I'm going to toggle timestamps here. Okay, yeah. So next question is from Prashant. Prashant's asking, I need your help to find out what all gadgets you use to record the session, please. You asked me to join the session. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So what I'll do actually is, okay, I'm going to show you. I'll show you all together, okay? Really, really quickly here. And I just remembered that video I have, I actually uploaded it to YouTube. So let's go together. And what we'll do is we will go to YouTube. And I'm going to have to look at my personal profile here in YouTube. So if you see anything that's private, whatever. I'm an open book, actually. I don't care. All right, so we're going to go to my channel, and I'm going to show you the entire setup I have of this studio. And if you have questions along the way, please let me know. Here we go, videos. Where is it here? I got to go to Creator Studio. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second, okay? YouTube Studio. So what I do is I created a studio from scratch, and I'll teach you how to do it right now, actually. It'll be fun. And I don't recommend ever hiring a contractor for this sort of thing because contractors, as you know, they absolutely rip you off. You know, they always take twice as long and they're 100% over budget. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, here it is here. Okay, good. All right. So what I'll do is this is actually just it's just a test for my course. And I shouldn't do this, but I put a link there. I don't know if it'll work for you, but you can check it out. And it's just basically the course I'm making right now. It's just the intro lecture, the 40-minute lecture actually on the course with a dude named Steve Washer, who's kind of like my mentor. So let's watch this together. Just part of it here. Okay. And I will teach you how to make a studio from scratch. Okay. And obviously I'm gonna mute it. I uploaded this in 4K. It's just a test video. There's a lot of issues with it. I'm still working on it, but nonetheless, I'm an open book. So let's do this, people. All right. So what you see here, and I'm going to fast forward to behind the scenes stuff. Okay. So in this course, I teach about camera, audio, lights, as well as computer and other accessories. And I unbox tons of products. I have many different camera angles. That's Steve's script right there. This here is using the camera that I used to shoot my first Udemy course, my first 10 courses actually. And that camera is the Canon Mark III. And I've got it up here and I'm going to show you. Okay. And you don't have to use an expensive camera. You can actually use any camera that you want. So let me just grab this. Give me a second. So this is the camera here that I shot my first course with, and this is from 2012, and this is a camera, a Canon 5D. Okay, it's a Mark III from 2012. It's not 4K, and that video you're watching right there above us was shot using this camera here, and I did it in manual mode. And for years I was really intimidated by manual mode until recently. Now I understand why it makes a lot of sense. And so what you see behind me is I want to show you where I hold up the products. Okay, so if you look up high there, you see those three rolls of paper. That's green screen. Then I've got white screen, and then I've got black. And behind that there is a brick wall. And so what I can do is in real time I can pull it, and I'm doing this for my MBA degree program because I want it to be edutaining, fun for everybody, and also masterclass quality. Motion picture quality. So I can pull them down if I want to change sets like that, and I can change the lights immediately. I've got Bluetooth set up as well, which is fun. And then on the ceiling, what I did actually was I drilled in a bunch of nails, and I'll show you here actually hooks. And so right up here in the ceiling, you could see these metal bars. And these metal bars have hooks on them that I drilled into what are called the joists. So let me nerd contract out for a second here. I'm going to be a contractor for a second. Behind your wall are pieces of wood that hold up your wall. And there's gaps between the wood where there's nothing. And people buy drywall, right, which is just thin stuff that they put on the wall. You ever hammer something into the wall and it doesn't stick and it falls down? It's because you didn't hammer it into the pieces of wood, which are a foot apart. So you can get this little sonar machine, which are cheap. They're $20. And you can find out where those studs are, those pieces of wood. And then you can hammer stuff into that wood. And on the ceiling, it's a little bit different. On the ceiling, they're called joists and not studs. And joists are a little bit usually farther apart, a couple feet apart. And I bring this up because if you look up here, I drilled in these things with my buddy Matt Lacousse into the joists. And then what I did, and each one of these, by the way, can hold a couple hundred pounds, each one of those hooks. And I have multiple redundant ones backed up, a lot of backups just in case. And so what I did was I created those so I can hang a lot of equipment anywhere I want in this room. And I've got just a ton of lights on here. And I'm experimenting with color too, which is a lot of fun. I'm kind of nerding out. And then what I've got is, you see these ripples here. This is actually, it's acoustic enhancing foam, which you can buy online. And I used to put blankets on my wall. And I also used to put a lot of furniture in my room so that the echo went away. But you can install that acoustic stuff if you want to. You can buy it on Amazon. You can see I've got a bunch of other cameras set up as well. This floor here is not a real floor, right? That floor actually, and by the way to make the things on the ceiling is, let me just fast forward a touch here. The way to make those things on a ceiling is using plastic pipes like that. They're called PVC pipes. Make sure you talk to a real contractor if you want to, and just be careful of this stuff, obviously. If you use the plastic pipes, make sure that you don't put anything too heavy on them. So I have PVC plastic pipes up here on the ceiling just for my rolls of paper, which aren't that heavy. They're like 80 pounds. And so I scroll up here and you can see the ceiling here, and you can use metal poles if you want to. And you can screw in and out different adapters on them if you want to. And what you're seeing these little graphics here is just, I'm telling you what the settings are on the camera, which I teach in the course. And this is a GoPro angle right here. And I got to stress that you don't need to have expensive equipment to make a great video. What's more important is how you use the equipment. It's true. So that's just a little script of what Steve, my business partner on this one, is going to say. And then back there behind me, I'm using what's called a slider. And you can get really cheap sliders. There's one by a company called Grip Gear, which is right back here. Okay, it's just over $100, it's expensive, but it works out great. You don't need to have a professional slider like I have up here, which professional interviewers use. And then the floor is just this really cheap stuff. This is what the floor looks like. See it there? That's just cardboard, dude. That's it. And each one of these panels is $10 on the floor, 8 feet by 4 foot. I put 3 of them there. And the walls are a little bit more expensive, but it's just that stuff in my hand. And I just hammered it to the wall. That's it. That's all it is. And it's important to create a great backdrop because, again, you only get you only get one chance to make a first impression. And for the floorboards, what I did was I bought that stuff there, and it's tough to see, but I hammered it in right there. You can look at the bottom left-hand corner and sort of see it right here. So anyway, let me talk less about the course, more about the studio. And I think I've explained most of the stuff here. Let me see what else I can explain. Oh yeah, in the course, what I do is I also teach you how to use a jib. That's a jib right there. It costs $99. And I bought a cheap set of wheels used on eBay. And then that's for B-roll. Okay, and I'm using a Canon Mark 50, which is the best vlogging camera on the market. It's not that expensive too. It's great. All right, so that's called a jib. And right there, you can see all those different angles that I was filming right there. Okay, so I'm just trying to give you a different perspective on how I do all this stuff. And I don't know if you guys remember, but maybe it was like 2 months ago, there was a camera that went up in the air, up towards the ceiling. Is because I actually pulled a string that I attached to that cheap jib there. So I teach you how to use cheap and expensive equipment, right, to make courses. And in terms of the rest of the studio, I'm just giving you a tour here. These things I can hang on. See, I mean, they're robust. Let's see what else I have here for you. That's the foam to put on the ceiling. And you buy this special product made by a company called Loctite. You spray it on it sticks to the wall. And again, it makes the acoustics better. It's not going to soundproof your room, but what it's going to do is it's actually going to just reduce the echo. See, there's no echo in here. The acoustics here are quite good. And if you want a soundproof room, though, what you can do is you can buy these little strips and put it on the outside of the doors and windows. All right, and I'll just wrap this up quickly. I'm losing viewers. I see it there. And that's just the microphone I have mounted to the ceiling. And the way to make a video with just 2 lights, and I'm recreating the way I made my first video right here, is I bought these products called Westcott Basics. They come with the lights as well as the poles. And I'm going to high-speed mode here. And I just put a lamp behind me. And it looks like this. I'll show you the setup. I did it in real time. That's it there. I didn't have that much light, but you can still get a decent effect from any camera. Again, the equipment doesn't matter as much as the person using the equipment. And then I took you for a tour back here, right? So back here, this is right behind my computer. Exposure is not that great there. But if you look up there, the computer I'm looking at right now, I've got that monitor. It's an iMac Pro. And then I've got, this is hard to see, I'm so sorry, but there's little boxes up top right here. Okay, they're Ultra Studio Blackmagic boxes that allow me to have multiple cameras at the same time on my webcasts. And I think that basically wraps it up. I did one more quick thing here too. So I did an unboxing of this slider product, and I'll go through this real fast here. It's called Grip Gear, but it's just over $100, and that's a slider. And you can use any DSLR camera on the slider. I even use this heavy beast here on it, and it worked great. If you want to use that slider in horizontal mode, then you should probably use a mirrorless camera, which is a lot lighter, like this. Like this Canon M50 here, which I'm using for that shot. Or you can use a Sony A7 III, which is a bit more pricey. But I recommend this camera here. It's great. This is the best vlogging camera you can get, or multi-purpose camera for that matter. So this is the Canon M50. I'm not sponsored by anybody ever. And what I like about it is I can turn the screen around so I can see myself when I'm recording as well for vlogging purposes. And it's really light as well. So, and it'll do 4K, which is great. And everything I record in 4K now. I'm trying to future-proof everything. So this entire course and my MBA degree program will be in 4K. Even if you can't see it on your browser, you will be able to upscale at some point. So anyway, that's a slider that I used. I keep everything in my studio on wheels or on the ceiling. I try to, except for props in the background, because studios get messy really, really fast. And it takes so much time to set up a shot, way more than you think. So everything's on wheels. I got a fire extinguisher as well, of course, and I'm very, very careful. But that product there is called Grip Gear, and it's great for B-roll, meaning not the primary camera. And if anybody has questions about how I set up my room, let me know. You can see on the floor here, last thing I'll say, I've got a carpet, and I put these cheap cardboard panels here that I'm standing on right now. But behind the scenes here, you see more stuff on wheels, as well as carpet. And if anybody has questions about that, please let me know. Again, that's just behind the scenes. And I sent that to a guy I'm making a course with called Steve Washer. And we're still working on that course right now. That will come out soon, though. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any additional questions on how I set up my studio, please let me know. And what I'll do now is I will switch over to the B camera, which is right there. Hey. All right. Next question is, okay, so the question is, what's the best way to find a tech person, meaning a developer, for an early stage or pre-revenue startup? Yeah. So what I recommend doing is going to meetup.com. And if you go to meetup.com, and I try to make my answers generic enough to apply to everybody on this call, but let's go there together, okay? So meetup.com is this website that you can use to go to any type of meeting anywhere in the world. And so meetup, meetup.com, here it is here. You can find a meeting. So what you can do is you can change your location and you can join any type of meeting you want to. Right? I'm not going to sign up here, but you, for example, if you wanted to, maybe let's say you're in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and you wanted to meet somebody that knows how to make an iOS app or an Android app, you can do a search on Android app or iOS app and Riyadh, and there's probably going to be a group of people that are going to meet maybe once a month or once a week. So go to those meetings. It's free to do. And that's how you can network to find people that way. Another way you can do it is just read my networking book. Just go to harounventures.com, and the networking book is free. And it'll teach you how to set up informational meetings with anybody you want to, so that you can get what you want by networking. And speaking of Meetup, what Steve Jobs did was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and Woz was the tech guy, and Jobs was the business guy. Good yin yang connection there. But what they did was they went to Meetup events too, like this, except then it was called the Homebrew Computing Market, and that's how they got discovered. So I recommend networking a lot, going to Meetup events. They're free, and that's how you're going to find developers. You can also go to Fiverr.com. That's Fiverr.com, and you can hire developers that way as well. You get what you pay for, though. And only hire people with stars that are 4.5 stars or higher. And they have 1,000 reviews at least. Or you can go to Upwork.com as well. So those are just some tips and tricks on how to network to meet people that can help you take your company to the next level through their technical skills. All right. Next up here. Hold on a second, please. All right. Question is, how do you look at the current market scenario where transition is on to automation and robotics? Do you see it's the right time to start a company? Yeah. I'm so excited about the future. You could set up a company as an OPC, a one-person crew, which I talk about in this course I'm making right now, the complete video course. Just by leveraging technology. Absolutely. And if you don't understand how to use a certain technical product, then learn. Go to Udemy courses or watch YouTube videos. Anybody can do it. The barriers to entry are very, very low now, and access to capital is global. And don't use your own money unless you have a bunch. I recommend raising money from high net worth investors. And you can go to my YouTube vlog and do a search on raise money. To watch an hour video I made on that topic recently to a presentation I gave to HSA MBA students here in San Francisco. Or you can actually take my course on how to raise money. It's one of my first courses. Or you can just read my networking book, and that'll teach you how to network to meet people to get anything you want in life and in business. Yeah. But no, I think now is a great time to start a company. And you don't have to be in Silicon Valley, man. You don't have to. You can be anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter. I could be doing this call from anywhere. I happen to be in the Bay Area, but I could be from anywhere. And I know I have students in every country in the world, and a lot of you are from all over the world. So we've just witnessed the death of distance. Anybody can start a company now. And it's cheap as well because you can run your code if you want to online for next to nothing on Amazon Web Services. And if you want to get super technical, we can as well. But no, there's never been a better time to start a company. Never. Yeah. And because of Amazon Web Services, that's why offerings like Uber, as well as Lyft and Netflix, all these companies offer great products at a cheap price because they run their companies almost entirely off of Amazon Web Services, the cloud, and the prices keep dropping too. So now there's never been a better time in history to start a company. And I think the biggest gold rush actually in history is occurring right now, and most people don't notice it. And you and I are part of it right now, because the biggest gold rush in history is YouTube. And YouTube is the only gold rush in history where it costs you nothing to make the product, and you have automatic distribution to billions of people. That's the only gold rush in history that's happened. And I think we're going to look back a decade from now on this and say this was the golden age of YouTube videos. I should have made more, that sort of thing. And so in my MBA degree program, I'm going to teach you all how to make incredible YouTube videos based on whatever equipment you have. I've used all of it. And I'll teach you how to make amazing videos, vlogs, because I want you to all be the thought leader on whatever product or service it is you're most passionate about. I want you to own that market. I'm going to teach you how to write like a professional journalist as well in the MBA degree program. But no, there's never been a better time to start a company than right now. All right. And I pride myself on kind of like I've got, Wrigley and Matter. Great. They help me out, which is awesome. But what I want to do is I want to teach you all how to do everything as a one-person crew in OPC. Okay. A one-person business that scales materially, right? I outsource everything. I'm lean, my company. I've got great leverage in my business model, and I want to teach you all how to do that as well. And you can take my complete business plan course now if you want to, or if you want to join my MBA degree program on December 2nd, which is when it starts. We'll talk about all that stuff then, because I'm going to put you through a boot camp. And I've worked with Stanford and other universities in helping them with their boot camps. And I've sat in the mini classes at Stanford and with Ilya, who's a great venture capital professor, and I've judged business models there many, many times. And I want to use what I've learned to help you start your own companies as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got, I have to start preparing for the CAT exam, which is the equivalent of the GMAT. Any suggestions on how I could be prepared for the exam? I want to stay focused and score really, really in the top percentile. Yeah. So what I recommend doing is, if you can, and if it's available in India where you are, I recommend taking. Give me one second. Okay, I'll be right back. I recommend taking the Princeton Review courses, and Princeton Review is what I use to write the GMAT. I took a course. And they will teach you how to write an exam, and they probably do it for the CAT as well. They definitely do it for the GMAT. They'll teach you how to write an exam and get a lot of the questions right without even reading the question. That's right. And I've talked about this before. I'll say it again quickly, but if you look at multiple choice answers, I want you to think like a lawyer. And any answer that has the word always or never in it, they're wrong. So we've eliminated 2 of the 4 answers right there. Now you got a 50-50 shot of getting that question right. And the reason I tell you think like a lawyer is you got to think if somebody can kind of contest or question the logic of a question by thinking like a lawyer. So for example, if I were to say this iPhone case is always black, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a different shade of gray. Or if I were to say, this thermos here never spills. Well, it gets cracked and sometimes it does. That sort of thing. So think like a lawyer and you'll do much better on tests. But check out Princeton Review if you can. All right, next up, we've got D'Angelo, who's from Washington, D.C. Good morning. Good morning. In your MBA program, will we have access to the video and marketing courses you're working on? Yes. But I'll make it much more customized for you too, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to teach you from scratch, how to create all this stuff. And I'm going to help you set up your studio as well at home. That's right. Even if all you want to do is have a piece of paper or use a wall. I really believe that if you master this sort of thing for webcasts and whatnot, then you'll have a big competitive advantage versus your peers in life. Because obviously we're going to be doing much more webcasts in the future, Skype interviews, etc. And you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And so I want to help all of you. And I don't care what camera you have. If you have a DSLR, I'll work with it and make it awesome for you. If you have an iPhone or an Android handset, and I have both, I'll help you take amazing videos. If you don't know how to set up audio, I'll teach you how to use a lavalier or a Blue Yeti, which is my favorite microphone. And this one here is it's kind of a higher end one. I'm not going to teach much about this one unless you want me to. I'm also going to teach you how to set up cheap lighting, set up poles using plastic, everything. And I don't care what your budget is. I'm going to help turn your video studio or your video wall in your house, if you want to have one, into something that's going to mesmerize your audience. And that's the problem with traditional MBA schools, is that they don't really keep up with the times. Every MBA school should teach you how to present, how to leverage technology to present from home as well. How to manage your own money. People, what cryptocurrencies are, they don't really teach this stuff in business school. Business schools have antiquated curriculums where they teach you a lot of theory. Like I don't remember any time in my life when I've used supply and demand graphs, that sort of thing. So the MBA degree program, and I'm going to have a special offer, and I'm not trying to just sell the thing because it's $499 and I'm going to lose money on it. And I don't care. I want to help. And, my online courses I've done great on, and that's going to kind of finance this. And, not everyone's going to get in. And I apologize if you don't get in. You'll be able to apply again. But I just want to make a difference. And it's $499. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you need a scholarship, don't tell me. Get accepted first, then ask, please. So you might ask, Chris, well, why are you even charging for it? Well, I have to, because if I don't charge for it, then people won't take it seriously. It's kind of like a gym membership, right? If you went to university that you live close to and you graduated, you could still use the university gym for free. But if you paid for a membership to Crunch or whatever club it is, Equinox, you're going to go. You're going to go and you take it more seriously. So anyway, and if you have more questions about the MBA degree program, you can always go to my website, harounventures.com. And then what you can do is you can go to the MBA tab and just read through the FAQs. And if we didn't answer one of the FAQs, just email admissions@harounventures.com. And all the deadline dates are there as well. Thanks. All right. Let's see. Yeah, D'Angelo, you're considering a shift into the media and entertainment industry. I'll do whatever it takes to help you make that career change and get the job too. I'm taking this very seriously, this entire MBA degree program. And that's why, I want to, what bothers me about teaching in general is teachers don't treat their students like they're customers. And the customer is paying money to the teacher. So the teacher should treat you like the customer. And that's why I want to cater this degree program to all of you individually. And that's why in the essay portion of the application on my website, I ask you, what are your 10-year goals? Because I want to do whatever it takes to make them become a reality. It's what's the point otherwise? What's the point of doing any degree if it's not going to help you achieve your goals in life and you're not going to enjoy it? It's like my son Dylan, he's 9 and he's taking piano lessons and, he loves the Beatles. So his piano teacher, I told her, just teach him the Beatles because he enjoys it. Anyway, a little side note, I'm Paul McCartney's coming here in a couple of weeks and it's sold out. And I told Dylan it's impossible to get tickets. I got great tickets. Maybe I'll vlog about it, but I'm going to surprise him with it. Yeah. And you got to see Sir Paul McCartney if he comes to your city because it might be the last time. Maybe. Yeah. All right. Akil is asking, why or for whom would you recommend a traditional MBA, meaning not my MBA degree program? Yeah, it's a great question. So in hindsight, I think about my path in life. And the reason I did an MBA was because I wanted to work in finance and I worked in technology at the time. And I tried networking once or twice and I gave up. And so I thought, all right, I got to spend $100,000, whatever it is, to get an MBA from the school. Brutal. I have a lot of money. I learned, I had fun though. And I have good friends there, but $100,000. And after all that, I learned the biggest secret in business is networking. So the only reason I think you should go and get a traditional MBA degree and not my program is if you've read my networking book, which you can get on my website for free, and you've set up 100, that's right, 100 networking meetings and you can't get the job of your dreams. And you might say, Chris, that's crazy, 100 meetings? I'm not going to do that. Well, dude, if you get an MBA from a traditional school, then that's $100,000. And 100 meetings is basically $1,000 a meeting. It's worth it. It's worth it. So network like crazy. I really believe that you can achieve anything you want in life by networking, which is the crux or core of my curriculum and what I teach in general. And I teach a lot more stuff as well. So anyway, that's what I recommend. And there's going to be some students that already have MBAs from great schools that are taking this as well. You should see the list of people that have applied. It's amazing. If you have an MBA already, you can still apply. Yeah. All right. Next up, Akil is saying, which MBA streams are good? Can you give your thoughts on each stream in detail? I don't know what that means. If you can just clarify, please, what you mean by MBA stream. Thanks. All right. Liberté is saying, hello, Chris from London Mates. Hello. Hello back at you. How are you? All right. Next up. So Prashant is saying, so earlier I answered a question about how to get financial documents for companies in America by going to sec.gov. And I mentioned how in other countries it's different, like in Canada, it's CEDAR. And in India, you're saying it's particularly hard to capture these details. Well, I've invested in a lot of companies in India, including Tata Motors, Satyam, Wipro, Infosys, a lot more, Mahindra, in Crompton and Greaves. And I was able to get a lot of the financial documents actually from sec.gov, because a lot of those companies have what are called ADRs, which stands for American Depository Receipt, which means that they list their companies on the Bombay in India as well, Sensex, I should say, sorry, as well as here in America on the S&P 500. So if that's the case, then yes, you can get those from sec.gov. All right. Can you provide a few examples of great side hustles? Yeah. So the best side hustle is teaching. And when one teaches to learn, and anybody can teach, anybody can do it. And I'm going to teach you in my MBA degree program how to set up a studio like this. That's right. Based on, regardless of what your budget is. I want to help you achieve this type of look and feel. And we can do it with cheap lights, cheap equipment, any camera. So I think teaching is important. Everyone's got something to teach, man. Everybody does. There's this wonderful woman who I interviewed years ago. I used to have my own Inc.com column on the side just for fun. That's how I learned how to write. And by the way, my editor told me to always write at an 8th or 9th grade level and never to have more than 3 sentences per paragraph. And I'll teach you all this stuff in the MBA degree program. But I interviewed this woman named Teresa Greenway, and I teared up during the interview. And she said that because what she does is, well, she was in an abusive marriage, and her husband was he was awful. And she had tons of children. And she got the courage one day to stand up and say, I can't take it anymore. And God bless her, she left him. And she was living off of food stamps with kids and everything. It was awful. And so she thought to herself, what do I really love doing in life? And she loves baking bread. How prophetic is that? So she put up a camera at her house. And she started making courses on Udemy on how to bake bread, sourdough bread, and all this other great bread. She's killing it. She's done exceptionally well. So again, her name is Teresa Greenway. She's done it. Anybody can do it. Okay, anybody can do it. You just got to be passionate about whatever it is you want to teach. Even Ninja. Like, people don't realize this. For all you Fortnite players out there, there's a guy named Ninja who makes millions of dollars every year just streaming, sharing with the world. Him playing like a badass on Fortnite. He does over using a product called Twitch, which Amazon bought for only $400 million. It was a great acquisition, which allows you to stream video games. But people don't realize that that Ninja started off teaching on Udemy. He started out teaching on how to use Twitch, and I know this because one of my kids just took his course. It's pretty cool. But just do what you're most passionate about from a teaching perspective. And I promise you'll do exceptionally well. And when you teach online, I think all of you should, please. And I'll teach you how to do it during my MBA degree program if you want. As you're the customer, and I'll teach you anything you want me to humbly try and teach you. But when you teach something you love from your heart, and it will do well. Okay, if this doesn't work, this doesn't work. So I think the best side hustle is teaching. There's no better business model on the planet than online teaching. And I think that a lot of us on this call, our parents want us or wanted us to be doctors or lawyers or engineers. That's most of us, right? Well, I think in the future, our parents are going to want us to be teachers or doctors or engineers. I left out lawyers on purpose. Unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. And I mention that because parents want you to be a doctor or a lawyer because you make a lot of money, which is kind of wrong. You should teach your kids to be confident and happy and do what they love in life. Then they'll never have a job for the rest of their lives, as Confucius says. But if you teach, unlike being a doctor or a lawyer has one customer at a time. That's it. One patient at a time. When you teach, you can have billions, hypothetically, of people as customers at the same time. And your courses can sell all night long in every currency in the world, in every country, which humble to say mine have. So I think your side hustle has to be teaching. And you have something to teach. I know you do. You all do. Everybody does. Everybody's got something to teach. So that's the best side hustle possible. And you all have this product anyway. And in my course, we're going to teach you, the complete video course, we're going to teach you how to use this in Android like a rock star. So that you can almost not tell the difference between using one of these things and this, right? All comes down to lighting, by the way, which is why your videos look great outdoors, but they look awful when you're in a restaurant and yeah, it's dark. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So that's the best side hustle. It's teaching. And other side hustles you can look into. And I love it because it's teaching, because it's very scalable too. And you don't have inventory issues ever, right? The inventory is the product, which is just virtual. It's a high margin business like software and cloud computing is. Other things you can look at include importing and exporting. And I used to do this with my kids. We went to AliExpress.com, which is a site owned by Alibaba. And we would import stuff and sell it on eBay at a big markup. And we did fine. It wasn't amazing, but we made money. Other things you can do for your side hustle is you all have, especially if you're a bit older, you have thousands of dollars on the floor in your house. You just don't realize it. And it's in the form of old products you're not using anymore. Maybe it's an old camera, or maybe it's an old iPhone, or maybe it's an original iPhone, or maybe it's a video game. All that stuff is worth a fortune. You could sell it on eBay. And I made a vlog on that top if you want to learn more about that. And so that could be kind of a mini side hustle. And if you don't have much stuff yourself, or if you've already sold all your stuff on eBay, then you could do that for friends and neighbors, sell their stuff and take a 20% cut. I've done it before with my kids. It works. So that's another side hustle. Another one is you can drive an Uber or a Lyft, whatever. Problem is that's not really scalable. But yeah. And there's other things too. You can do Airbnb in your house, which we used to do in this room, many, many years ago. So those are just some side hustles. And the last thing I'll say is go to Fiverr.com. That's Fiverr, 2 R's.com. And you could sell your services there. Like maybe you like using PowerPoint or Premiere Pro or Final Cut, or maybe you like to code Python. All these skills you can use on Fiverr.com and charge people for them. All right. All right. Akil is saying, any thoughts on the gaming industries, meaning eSports? Yeah, I'm very bullish on the industry because it's the only sport which is truly scalable, where the individual creating the product owns all the rights. They don't have to deal with managers or greedy owners of their teams. They don't have to deal with strikes or labor unions, etc. And I think it's only a matter of time until these people that play video games online, meaning MLG, Major League Gaming, or eSports, it's only a matter of time until they make much more money than the best professional athletes have ever made. Again, because you get to own all the stuff yourself when you're streaming it, right? Like I own the rights for all my stuff, everything. I have 100% rights for everything. And you can distribute it anywhere. And so Udemy is a great business model. They take 50%, which is awesome because they market your stuff. But I think that eSports is going to be a massive, massive, massive industry. And if you don't believe me, then watch any kids under the age of 15 and just watch what they watch on YouTube. They'll watch people streaming video games a lot. They'll have the Twitch app. They might stream themselves as well using an Elgato Stream Deck, which I'll show you how to use in my complete video course. So I think eSports is going to be massive, massive. It's going to be a really, really big market. Yeah, I'm bullish on it. All right. Next up is Chris. There is no functioning stock market in Sierra Leone. How can we create one? God, what a great question. Yeah. What you can do is this. You can reach out to people that work at some of the largest stock markets in the world. The NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the DAX, the FTSE, whatever. London Stock Exchange, I should say, sorry. All these other great markets. And you can reach out to them and ask them for help on how to do it. And the way to do it is you go to my website, harounventures.com, and download my networking book and read it cover to cover. It's free. and it will teach you how to get meetings with anybody. And so maybe you're doing an advanced search in LinkedIn based on the methodologies taught in my book. Maybe you're doing an advanced search in LinkedIn and you find somebody from Sierra Lione that also lives, that works at the New York Stock Exchange. And you set up a call with them and ask them. You're going to have to get local lawyers involved as well. Okay. And I would also talk to your government official, your member of parliament or congressperson or whatever it might be in your home country. Talk to them. You elected that person. So that, they kind of work for you, kind of like I work for you because you pay for this. The customer's always right. Call your government official and ask them for help as well. And they might actually even be able to provide a grant to help make it possible, because every country knows that having a vibrant stock market, it's amazing for the economy because of the tax revenues. So get the government to foot the bill. Don't pay for it yourself. But there's no reason you can't get this done by talking to government officials and also networking a lot talking to people that have something in common with you, for example, that work at the bigger stock markets somewhere else in the world. And keep me up to date on how this works. If you take my, this will be fun. If you take my MBA degree program, what I'll do is I will do whatever I can in my power to help you create a stock exchange right there. I love it. I love the challenge. All right. Next up is Nick. Nick is saying, good morning. How are you? I'm great. Thanks, Nick. Nick is from Georgia, over in Eastern Europe. And Nick is getting out of military duty. And if I have to write, and we talked about this, Nick and I, in a previous webcast, if I have to write a letter to him to say that he's doing my degree program, my MBA degree program, to get him out of the military service in Georgia, then heck yeah, I'll do it. And if anybody else is on this call and your government makes you serve in the military, but you can get out of it by taking a degree or whatever it is, let me know if I can help and I'll write a letter recommendation. It works sometimes. Yeah. Whatever it takes. Okay, next is, what is the preferred entity to register the company with? It's a tech startup. So I'm not going to answer that one only because every state, every country, every jurisdiction, and every company has different legal structures, okay, depending on how many people you have, who owns your company, etc. So you could set up an LLC, which is limited liability corporation, initially, and then maybe you want to scale it, so you'll have a C Corp, which means you can get more investors involved. Or you can have an S Corp, which is what I do, and I pass everything through my company. Kind of complicated. I'm not going to go there. But please talk to a tax attorney. And you can set up a call. It'll cost you $30 for a 1.5 hour call. That's it. To talk to a lawyer by going to LegalZoom.com. And I'm not compensated or affiliated with any company. Please, I want to humbly help. And they'll help you out. They'll tell you what kind of structure you have. And if there's anybody on this call that's making money on the side, a bunch of money on the side, and you don't register that company, you're hurting yourself, man, and your kids. Lawsuits happen. And anybody that's going to take my MBA degree program or keep coming on this call, you're going to be incredibly successful. Okay, and I know it's an arrogant thing to say, but I know in my heart that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make you successful. And you're going to make a lot of money. And what's going to happen is once you make a lot of money, people are going to come after you. You might lose friends as well. People are kind of different when you have a lot of money. And also, you're going to get sued. You're going to get sued. It's happened to me. They just dropped the lawsuit. It's ridiculous, right? I refuse to pay even a penny. They're like, okay, why don't we settle out of court then? I'm like, no, I'll out-litigate you forever, man, on principle. It's like negotiating with, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, please register your company if you can. Talk to a lawyer to set this up, please. Thanks. All right, my stomach is grumbling, so I'm going to have part of my greatest hits shake, my antioxidant shake. I make this every Sunday. It's got kale in it. It's got whey protein. It's got greatest hits of everything. Because I want to live to 150. And I believe that almost everybody in this call is going to live to past 100. And the person that's going to make it to 150 is alive today. There's so much money here in Silicon Valley going into life extension. It's amazing. It's amazing. So Anyway, that's part of this, my antioxidant approach. All right, next up. And if I've skipped anybody's question, please just paste it again. I apologize if I have. All right, Pregs. Hey, Pregs from South Africa. How are you? I always wondered how free apps make money for the companies that develop them. Also, are there deals between telecom and app companies so data usage profits are shared? Yeah. So the way it works in general is, and I know this because I sell a lot of courses over Android as well as iOS. The iOS and Android stores, they take a 30% cut. And what happens is quite often when you buy an Android handset or a Windows-based computer, there's a lot of bundled software on it. And there's a great rev share agreement that these OEMs or original equipment manufacturers, the hardware people, have with the apps or software people, where they all get a cut. And that's what Symantec does, and McAfee as well. There's a good rev share that's involved, especially at telecom companies. Like if you buy, I used to use T-Mobile here in the United States, which I think got bought by Deutsche Telekom. And T-Mobile, I use an Android handset, and there's a bunch of apps on it. And I know for sure that Samsung got compensated and did a revenue share with the apps that were pre-bundled. Yeah. So, but the way that a lot of free apps make money is there's ads. Oh, I got to teach you guys a great trick. Oh, you're gonna love this. Okay, if anybody plays games, okay, you ever at night you're kind of having trouble sleeping, you're playing a game, and an ad pops up and it says, "Watch this video for 30 seconds. Otherwise, you can't continue playing the game." All you have to do is turn Wi-Fi off, and whenever these apps try to ping the internet to load a video, they won't be able to ping it. So if you have one of those games you can download, just play offline, do that. But a lot of these companies make money obviously through advertisements, which are in your face, and they're annoying, that sort of thing. But what happened was a lot of money was invested into the app market, and they were bad investments. And I'll tell you why. So I remember back in, I think it was 2000 and it was like 10 or 11, Kleiner Perkins, a great venture capital firm, they created a $100 million app fund to invest in apps. And it was awesome. At first, I remember when I first got my iPhone and Android handset years ago, there was an amazing new game every week. My kids and I would play. It was so much fun, man. Like there's games like Where's My Water, Field Runners 1, Field Runners 2, a lot of great tower defense games. It was awesome. And then innovation died. And there's no more great apps like games, right? It's really died, that market. And the reason is because people will download these games. They'll like them for a day or two. That half-life is awful. And then they'll just get rid of them. And for me, I have so many apps on this thing. I have no idea where they are. I'm just inundated with too much stuff. And so people realize that the app market is not a great market in itself, unless you kill it like, I don't know, like Supercell did with Clash of Clans, that sort of thing. It's tough. It's really, really hard to make a lot of money with apps. And that's why innovation is kind of dying when it comes to games. But a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll create apps and they'll have a freemium version for marketing reasons. And they might even have a premium version as well. You try it, you like it, then you pay for it. And software companies have been doing this forever. There's a great software company here called Splunk, ticker SPLK, in the Bay Area. And it's a log file management company. I won't go there unless you want me to. But they have a free version of their product, a trial version. And once you get hooked, and almost everybody does, then you end up paying a lot of money for it. Right? So anyway, that's how they make money. And if you have additional questions about that, please let me know. And thank you. All right. Next up is, by when are you planning to launch the MBA program? And do you have any plan to promote it here in India? If yes, how can we associate with it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prashant. Appreciate that. Yeah, so you can go to my website right now and just take a look. It's already up there. All the details you need to know, right? Now, and I'll do this quick because I've done it before. So if you just go here to harounventures.com, and on the homepage, and this is where you can always get my courses for the lowest prices as well. So like for $9 for each course, or you can pay $50 for a 9-course bundle we have on now. but just click here, apply, and all my individual courses are down here too. Okay. But you can click here to apply, or at least to learn more stuff about it. And then all the FAQs are right here, frequently asked questions, as well as requirements, the trailer, and important dates. So check that out. And if we didn't answer all of your questions there, please let us know, or please email actually admissions@harounventures.com, and we'll make sure that we've addressed all your questions or concerns. Yeah. And thank you for your interest. Appreciate it. All right. Next up is, Chris, do you know of any website that provides a range of tools focused on helping entrepreneurs do all the analytics needed to evaluate a market entrance for a service or a product? That's kind of tough. It's tough. I mean, you can use amazing analytical products like Tableau, ticker data. Actually, it just got bought by Salesforce. I love that product for analytical reasons. You can also go to a company I was an investor in years ago called quid.com, QUID.com. And there might be a trial version of the product you can try there. There's a lot of other business intelligence tools you can use as well online. There's Wolfram Data as well. Wolfram, I think it was called, or Wolfram Alpha. Check that out. Do a search on that. And then when it comes to sizing a market and understanding a market better, what I recommend doing is going to surveymonkey.com and setting up a survey. And you can pay for surveys. You can pay $50 or whatever it is to set up a survey to ask 100 people in the world, in this demographic background, whatever it is, that have these likes, these interests, to answer 10 questions that you can create. And that's kind of your sample set from a statistics perspective, which will help you out a lot with market research in terms of sizing a market or deciding, how profitable it might be for you to consider entering a market. All right. Good morning. All right, somebody just asked, what is the second book? So earlier on, I mentioned a couple books for finance. One of them is this one, The Intelligent Investor. Oh, I got this. Actually, I got to change camera. Sorry, guys. I didn't get much sleep last night. Clearly. There's this book. There's Fooled by Randomness. Okay, and then there's one up there called When Genius Failed. You can see it up in the corner there. So that's what I talked about. And if you want, and I get this question a lot, people ask, what are your best or favorite business books? Just go to my vlog on YouTube and do a search for the word books or book, and you'll find the video comes up. And I go into a lot more detail there as well. Thanks. All right, Rochester, New York in the house. Hey, how are you? John, I didn't know you're from Rochester. That's awesome. No wonder you asked me about Canadian comedians. My favorite Canadian comedians a couple months ago. That's cool. So for those of you not familiar, the great state of New York borders on Canada, Ontario. We share a lake together, Lake Ontario. It's not called Lake New York State, okay? It's called Lake Ontario. We own that. Just kidding. All right. So John is saying, why do I find bonds so boring? Why are they interesting to you? Dude, I totally know what you mean. Totally know what you mean. Bonds are kind of boring, but I'll show you. I'm going to show you some real bonds, okay? And I'm going to make it fun for you, and you're going to love this. And it's going to be interesting. Okay. All right. I'm going to show you just a ton of bonds, okay? This is, and I'm going to be global. We're going to talk about Russian bonds. We're going to talk about Egyptian bonds. Hold on one second. Get a couple more. Let's see if I can. Aha. All right. Let's talk about bonds. So, for those of you not familiar with bonds, bonds are, so you can invest in, so big companies raise money by going on the stock market, and they sell part of their company to you and I. And that's called equity. So we own equity in the company. And remember the balance sheet. Okay, so a balance sheet tells you what you own and what you owe. And so on a balance sheet, it's called a balance sheet because it's a scale and it has to balance. Okay, so everything you own is called an asset, right? Like cash, you own cash. You own a car, you own a house. And you might ask yourself, well, wait a second, how do I account for all that stuff? Because I only own part of my house. Okay, and I only own part of my car. Okay, so the asset is your car. Okay, you have it, you own most of it. And the Bank of Toyota owns the other half of it. So how are we going to balance that car on a balance sheet? Because assets have to equal liabilities plus equity. Okay, so let's say I have a Toyota Camry, which is my first car. And let's say you bought it for $10,000. And so you've got a $10,000 car. It's an asset you own. Well, you only own half of it. You paid $5,000 for it, and the other $5,000 you're financing from the Bank of by the Bank of Toyota. Okay, so this asset of $10,000 has to equal, the scale's got to balance, right? Because everything is owned by a person or a government entity or a bank or whatever. So $10,000 asset equals $5,000 liability, the loan, right, which is payable to the Bank of Toyota. And the other $5,000 to make it balance is equity that you own in that. Okay, so the way that companies raise money to buy assets is they buy it by issuing equity, meaning selling part of their company, right, through the stock market, or they get a loan, and a loan is a bond. Now, bonds are boring because they're not as volatile. They don't really, for the most part, they don't move up and down as quickly. You can't make a killing on it. But I love them because a lot of the times, if you invest in high quality bonds, you get a dividend, which is a coupon, for example, and they're lower risk usually, right? You can't go to the stock market and invest in the U.S. government. You know, if you want to invest in the U.S. government, you have to buy U.S. bonds. If you want to invest in the French government, you have to buy French bonds. And because those governments are big entities that aren't growing very fast, it's not their fault. They're just big, right? Because of that, you're not going to see big moves in the bonds as much, relatively speaking, okay? And there are exceptions. So that's why it might appear a bit boring to you. Plus, you're investing usually in countries. Like, what's exciting about that? You know, I'd rather invest in the next Microsoft or next Apple than invest in the U.S. economy. Okay. So now I'm going to go through bonds. So governments, and I'm going to try, I love teaching from real products, and I buy everything on eBay, and you can always sell it back to eBay. So think about it. If you're given a presentation and you want to use a badass prop like this, you can buy it on eBay, and then you can sell it back to eBay after your presentation is over. And it's like you rented it. You'll pay a fee, obviously, right? But I try to be as international as I possibly can. And so when governments want to raise money to build bridges or declare war, God forbid, and all that stuff, governments are not run like businesses. Okay, so they can't make enough money from taxes to finance wars or finance bridges, for example. And so what they do is they can't sell part of themselves, so they can't give away equity. You can't sell part of yourself if you're a country. But what you can do, and there's exceptions. I know the U.S. government bought Alaska from Russia. What they do is they get a loan, and a loan is called a bond. So here's an example, and this is the most international example ever. This thing is dope. So I got this. I think I paid about $10 for it on eBay. This is from the late 1800s or 1902. It's written in French. It's in pounds sterling, and it's for the Egyptian government to build a dam. And they issued this bond, right, a certificate, so they could build a dam. And what happens is when they did this, they sold this to you, hypothetically speaking, okay? And you gave the Egyptian government a lot of money, and they built that dam. Now, because a lot of money is taken out of circulation, what happens is the supply of money goes down. And we know that if the supply of anything we like in life goes down a lot, like avocados, then the price goes up. So since the supply of money in circulation is down, then interest rates go up. Okay? That's how governments change interest rates. All right. So we talked about this one. Let me talk about another example here. And I have a World War II savings bond as well that I can show you from the U.S. government. But I'll show you one for World War I. So if anybody speaks Russian on this call, I want you to tell me what this says here, okay? And I might actually have to hold it up closer, see if the focus works. I gotta hide my face because it tries to focus on my face. All right. Hopefully that worked. All right. Nick. Nick, you're from Georgia. You might. Nick, I'm putting you on the spot, brother. I want you to read this to us, okay? Nick, I want you to translate this here. Okay, and I'll hold it by my face as well, and you could take a screenshot. Take a screenshot, Nick. All right, good. Let me know what it says. So this was for 2 billion rubles, I guess, in 1916 from the Russian government to finance what? World War I, of course. Yeah. So it's 1 year before the Russian Revolution. So that's how they financed World War I. Companies use them as well. So, for example, this is the New York Central Railroad Company. Okay, and this is from, I guess, the 1930s. Yeah. And so what they did was they realized that, all right, we need to raise a ton of money to build a railroad. It's really expensive, right? Really, really expensive. And they didn't want to issue stock for whatever reason, or maybe they were already publicly traded and they didn't want to sell more shares, because if they sold more shares of their company, investors would get mad, because basically if the number of shares increases a lot, then the earnings per share goes down and the price earnings multiple goes way up, way up. Okay. So what they did was the New York Central Railroad Company issued bonds. And instead of like the Egyptian bond and the Russian bond I showed you a second ago, what happens is you buy it at a discount. So say it's got a face value of $100. You buy it for like $90, and then in 5 years the governments buy it back from you for $100. Okay, so that's, you made money on that difference there. It's sold at a discount. That's why it's called a discount bond. Now, let's say you're the type of investor that's like, yeah, I mean, I want to buy a bond, but and I want to buy it from a company that has a higher, it's going to be a higher return, a little riskier. I get it, but I also want to get money every 6 months or so out of it, like a dividend. It'd be nice for me. Well, those are called coupon bonds. Okay, and so discount bonds don't have coupons sometimes, right? They're called, if they don't, it's called zero coupon bonds. Now, this is the New York Central Railway, and here's the bond, the paperwork for the bond, and here are the coupons. See, and what you do is every 6 months or whatever it is, you take off one of these little coupons. And then what you do, and it's pissing me off because I had a camera that Matt told me to put on today so I could show you face down. I'll do it next week. I'll have a third camera looking down. But what you do is you cut these out, and it's like currency, and you take it to the bank or anywhere else, and you get that coupon. Now it's all electronic. But I love visualizing how things work like this, because I think if you understand the process, you'll enjoy it a lot more. Which is why in the videography course I'm teaching, which is coming out soon, I actually take apart a lot of cameras, and I show you the magic behind it, like the image sensor, right, which looks like that underneath the mirror, right? Now there's cameras that don't have those mirrors, called mirrorless cameras. So, and I'll talk about that in more detail if you want me to on this call or during that course, or if you're taking my MBA degree program, you get all that stuff for free. So that explains bonds in a nutshell. Hopefully it makes it a little bit more interesting for you. I have another example over there for Euro Disney and how Walt Disney built Disney World, or Disneyland, whatever it's called, in France by issuing bonds. Hopefully that makes it a bit more interesting for you. And there's something called a yield curve. And a yield curve basically is what the market expects interest rates to be longer term. And so what a yield curve looks like is on the x-axis is time, okay, and on the y-axis is the interest rate. And the market kind of prices in what interest rates are going to be longer term, and they usually do that based on where interest rates are now and where they expect the government to make them longer term. And remember that business is always cyclical. Rinse, lather, repeat. Boom, bust, echo. And interest rate cycles change a lot during that entire cycle, right? Things are bad, interest rates are cut low to stimulate the economy. Things are good, government raises interest rates in order to slow down the economy so you don't have inflation. And so they have enough bullets in the chamber to cut interest rates and stimulate the economy. And so what I'll do now is just to make it maybe a bit more interesting, let me talk about yield curves, okay, really, really quickly. This shouldn't bore you. I'm trying to make it somewhat interesting, although I'm tired, you can tell today. So let's go to yield curve. All right. So let's go to the Treasury. Okay, good. This is it here. So you can actually map this stuff out here. Okay, so right now we're in the U.S. government website, Department of Treasury. And what the yield curve is saying, let me show you the data first, okay? It's saying that if you invest 1 month in a bond, a U.S. bond, right, at this date here, then what happens is you get that return, okay? If you invest in a 30-year bond, you get that return there as well, okay? That sort of thing. And you've got all the historical data as well. So let me see if I can go back here. Yeah, and you can look at all the historical data here too. So if you wanted to, actually, you can map this stuff out, which I've done before. And it basically looks like this. I'll do it this way so we're both looking at the same angle. And I'm going to get back into bigger mode, Chris, now, so I can explain this a little bit better. Clear, go big, or go home. Here it is here. Okay, good. So on the x-axis here, you have time. On the y-axis, you have the interest rate. And it usually looks like this. Okay? And sometimes you have an inverted yield curve as well. But it basically tells you, and there's a reason why I mentioned this, it tells you, using that data I just showed you from the government's website, what interest rates are going to be, or the market's pricing in longer term. Now, I show you that because when you look at company bonds, companies are more risky than the U.S. government. So their curve is not going to be here. It's going to be higher up here, but it's going to follow the same pattern, okay? And companies issue bonds with higher returns than the U.S. government because companies are more risky, right? And they know that. They're like, dude, no one's going to buy my bond because I'm more risky than the U.S. government unless I give them, a higher interest rate. And some people call very high interest rates ones junk bonds or high yield bonds, they call it now, which was the market was created by a guy named Michael Milken, a brilliant Wharton graduate who ran Drexel, his company in Beverly Hills, on a big desk that looked like an X back in the 1980s. And what he did was he created junk bonds, which means high yield bonds, meaning high returns, but very risky, okay? So that people that needed money 1 or 2 times only, that didn't want to go public, could get access to it. And so a lot of these great, big, expensive, crazy hotels you see in Las Vegas were financed using junk bonds. So hopefully that explains the bond market to you in a little bit more detail. What I invest in, I'll never tell you what to invest in, but what I do invest in is I have part of my portfolio in Treasury inflation protected securities, which is TIPS, TIPS. And basically the yields on those instruments I invest in go up if inflation increases. It's a good deal. And it all depends where you live, but a lot of times if you invest in municipal bonds, meaning not federal bonds, not municipal bonds, meaning bonds that are going to help, your local town or city build a bridge, those are tax deductible as well. You get a tax incentive, but it all depends on where you live, and talk to your accountant if you want to buy those products as well. But the more risky the bond, obviously the higher the yield, right? I mean, no one's going to buy the bond otherwise. So in terms of how much bonds you should own in your portfolio, well, I teach a course called the Complete Personal Finance Course, where I talk about portfolio management, and I give you a dashboard product for you to kind of understand and visualize what percent of your net worth should be in stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities. And when you invest in bonds, usually what happens is the general rule, and this is kind of old school, but money managers used to tell their clients years ago that I want you to take your age. And I want you to take 100 minus your age. And so let's say you're 80 years old. So 100 minus 80 is 20. So 20% of your net worth should be in riskier investments like stocks, and 80% should be in very low risk US bonds. Okay, because you can't afford to lose that money because you don't have that much time left in life, whatever, to make up for it. So let's say you're 30 years old. Well, 100 minus 30 is 70. So in that case, 70% of your net worth it can be in slightly higher risk stocks, and maybe 30% are in lower risk investments, including AAA rated government bonds. And I mentioned AAA. So there's ratings companies which will rate the bonds based on how risky they are. There's Moody's that does it, as well as S&P. And those bonds usually have ratings when they rate them of AAA is the best, then AA, then A, and then anything below A is like junk bond territory or high yield territory, triple B, B, that sort of thing. So you always want to make sure you understand what the rating is of the bond before considering investing in it. And if you have additional questions about bonds, please let me know. Thank you. All right, next up is... But John, I had all these great posters I want to show you too. I'll take them out of storage over here soon. Like during World War II, it was patriotic to buy bonds, right? To help the U.S., kind of help to win the war. And that's why they had one saying, Uncle Sam wants you. And some of them are really interesting and patriotic too. I have a beautiful one, a real one I bought from Canada as well, which has a Canadian soldier and a fleur-de-lis, which is, yeah. All right. Next up, and hopefully this audio is good. If anybody has complaints about the audio or the video, please let me know, as I'm always trying to push the goalpost out, as I say in Canada, and just make this product better for you every week. Yeah. All right. So Anadi is saying, hi, Chris. Hope all is well. Just came in to say hi. Thank you. How are you? I'm visiting home this week after 4 months and won't be here on the chat today or next week. My loss. See you next week. Same next week. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, buddy. Thank you for letting me know. And Anadi told me that his name is not pronounced Anadi. It's Anadi. And it's with TH. And I have it on the bottom of my monitor as well, so I never forget it. So if I'm mispronouncing your name, please let me know. Please, please, please. I'm asking, you're doing me a favor. I want to be more worldly and I don't want to butcher your names. So please let me know. And I've had enough people in my life butcher my last name. We've been out to dinner and waiting for us to be paged as a family of 6. I have two sisters and a brother. And they'd say, heroin party of 6, heroin party of 6. Yeah. Okay. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, Navi. Thank you. Mr. Wright is saying, hey, Chris, what's up, my man? Great to hear from you, man. Thank you. And thank you for the comments you left in my YouTube videos as well. I enjoyed reading those. Thank you. All right. So Akil is saying, if you were given the chance to read only one book, what would it be and why? So it'd be the Bible. It's who I am. It's who I am. Yeah. And by the way, I'm not going to get all religious on you and stuff. And I know the Old Testament is the same book in a lot of different religions, but I remember years ago, I got fired and I don't understand it. Like I made the company money, whatever. And I think my boss was just really insecure and felt like he hired his assassin, which I'm glad that happened because it forced me to start my own company. But I remember like things were kind of rough. I lost my job and I had a mortgage. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to make ends meet? And I called my dad, not for money. I never do that. But I said, Dad, I don't understand. Like I think I'm a good person. I think, I do a lot of good things and just things aren't working for me. I got let go and I made the firm a lot of money. I just don't understand it. And he said something that it helped me a lot. He said, Chris, I want you to, sometimes we don't understand why things happen career-wise. And then years later, things work out well. And if that career setback didn't occur, then you'd never be as successful as you are, or as happy, I should say, as you are. Okay. And what happens is he told me that, God already knows what's going to happen. So, don't worry. And he told me to read the book of Job, which is in the Old Testament. And prophetically speaking, Job is job. And it's about this man who lost everything, but he never gave up his faith. And then everything worked out longer term for him. And he kind of understood why he was sent down that path in life. And so for those of you that, have had career issues like I have had, don't worry, because maybe you were doing what you're not most passionate about. And those career setbacks are actually blessings in disguise to push you towards doing what you're more passionate about in life. And what's the point of getting up every single day and doing something you hate doing? You should do stuff that's going to make you happy. And if I can be resourceful in any way to helping you start a company, so you can live your own life on your own terms, please let me know. But for me, that answers the question about what the best book is for me personally. All right. So Akil is saying, managing time versus saving time, what's your perspective? Wow. That's good questions, man. That's a tough one. Like you asked a question earlier about focus versus concentration, and I felt like I didn't answer your question properly. I apologize for that. But it's like those riddles. I love it. It's like Craig Scott, who makes a lot of really smart comments in the calls usually. So managing time versus saving time, what's your perspective? Yeah. So I guess the best way to kind of answer this is it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't get that time back. And the way I think about it is I would rather spend time with my kids and my family than any friends, because those kids and my family will be my family forever. Okay. And that's me managing my time. They'll always take precedence. I rarely travel on business because I want to be the father that's there for my kids every single night to put them in bed, tuck them in, say prayers. My 14-year-old doesn't want that anymore. He's at that stage where he's like, hey dude, drop me off, block away from the party. But I can't get that time back. And there's a statistic, which is sad but true, which is that by the time your child is 12 years old, you've already spent 90% of the time you'll ever spend with them. And so you can't get that time back. And so for those of you that, and I'm talking to myself in hindsight, Chris, back in 2006, when Andrew was 2 years old and he had daddy child breakfast day at school, you didn't go to that because you had some meeting that was so important and you don't even remember, Chris, what meeting that was. You'll never get that time back. So I would schedule as much time as you can with your family, and just know you can't get time back. And it doesn't matter how wealthy you become. You can't ever get that time back. And so if there's ever a recital for your kids and you've got a work event, F the work event, man. Screw it. You're not going to have that job the rest of your life. Your kid's going to be your kid the rest of your life. That's how I kind of think about time right now. You just can't get it back. So savor every single second and prioritize family first over everything. And that includes even weekends. Like I hate it when I work for other people and there'd be a corporate picnic, right? Like seriously, you make me work Monday to Friday. You treat me like crap. And now I got to come on the weekends and go to that event, which I usually call forced family fun, FFF. Prioritize family and just kind of Heisman everything else from a time perspective. So that's saving time. Now, in terms of managing time in general, as you all know, I write out my schedule daily. And I think if you write down your schedule daily, you'll accomplish 1 billion times more than what you would accomplish otherwise. And so you can go to my website, harounventures.com/ all lowercase /schedule, and download my one-page template that I use to map out and plan each day. And it really helps me to manage my time to the extent that I have time for exercise, for family, for prayer, for work, whatever it is. And you're much more well-balanced that way by scheduling each day. And so I highly recommend scheduling each day. Again, go to my website. You can download that template for free, harounventures.com/schedule. All right. Next up is Mr. Wright. The question is, many people who are invested in Ripple's XRP, so XRP is the ticker for Ripple, cryptocurrency, which is focused on financial services companies, and the founder lives just around the corner here. Many people who are invested in Ripple's XRP are saying that this cryptocurrency will create a new generation of wealth and will become a supernatural currency, all because banks are getting behind Ripple's tech. I'm invested in Ripple. However, I don't see the price going up anytime soon. In fact, what causes prices to fluctuate? Yeah, so I agree. I'm also an investor in Ripple. Okay, I'm never going to tell you what cryptos to buy. I own a couple and have for quite a while. And if you want to learn more about the cryptocurrency, go to my course, the Complete Cryptocurrency course. What causes prices to fluctuate is usually more macroeconomic focused. Okay, it's geopolitical. So that's why I always say that I want you all to be very, very long-term focused and don't get fooled by randomness. And I want you to think 5 years from now, is this company I'm investing in or Ripple going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And if you think more relevant, then who cares about volatility? Just kind of be a long-term shareholder. Like Warren Buffett, he basically says that every time he invests in a company, he's assuming the stock market's going to be closed for a decade. Okay, and I don't want you to trade. I want you to be long-term investors. Don't be a tourist when it comes to these some of these cryptocurrencies that you personally like longer term. And if you want, what you can do is in my complete cryptocurrency course, I go through a 49-step program. Okay, I made this props kind of fun. 49-step program on how to tell what cryptocurrencies you should buy, and I base this on the IPO prospectus setup, right? So these IPO prospectuses tell you every risk, everything you need to know about a company before deciding to invest. And so I put that together into my course, the complete cryptocurrency course, and it's a 49-step process, right? Because 1849 was the gold rush here in San Francisco. This is a 49ers ball. So I go through all of that in that course. And so before investing in any cryptocurrency, please do your own due diligence. And I try humbly my best to help you out from a due diligence perspective through that 49-step template that I provide you with in that course of mine, the complete cryptocurrency course. And I did that also because I'm just so upset that, people are getting ripped off in cryptos. And a lot of people that tell you to buy cryptos, I think, are going to jail. There's been so much fraud that's occurred. There's going to be government investigations eventually. People are going to go to jail. Because what happens is people would buy these cryptos, and then they'd hype them up, and then they'd sell them. And after they sold them, sometimes they tell you to sell them on YouTube or whatever it is. So you sell them, then they buy them back. Rinse, lather, repeat. Fraud. And so cryptocurrencies are not regulated by governments. They're regulated by the laws of physics and mathematics. So you got to do your thorough due diligence. Please use my 49-step process. And that will make you a long-term investor in cryptos. And I think most cryptos are a scam. And it breaks my heart because I made this course, a 24-hour course called the Complete Cryptocurrency Course. And I was a 7 out of 10 in terms of how bullish I was on cryptos and when I started making the course. And I ended the course, and I'm always intellectually honest and transparent. I ended the course at a 3 out of 10 because I think most of them are scams. Most of them are scams, yeah. So, yeah. So what makes them go up and down in the near term is usually geopolitical issues or other extraneous factors. Like, let's say cryptocurrency X crashes and everyone gets defrauded. Well, all cryptocurrency is going to go down because of that, right? Or let's say there's a geopolitical headline that war might occur somewhere in the world. Well, prices of all securities will change. Some will go up, some will go down. The price of oil will go up, the price of gold will go up, it's a fear index, and certain cryptos might go down a bunch, maybe. So just understand that you can't be fooled by randomness by being a trader, right? Traders, they're not around for a long time, and it always ends badly for them. Just be a long-term investor, and don't worry about volatility. I had an analyst that worked for me at my hedge fund. Love that guy. Jason's his name. And he said that whenever he pitched a stock to me, I asked him about his thoughts on risk and volatility. And he'd say, Chris, I don't know the path, but I know the destination. So I want you to be focused on the destination in 5 years and coming up with a target price for that crypto, which I teach you how to do in my course as well. It's complicated, but it can be done. And the same thing, if you want a target price on stocks, I want you to think 5 or 10 years out. You can take my complete financial analyst course to understand how to set target prices for stocks, so that you don't panic. You see the bigger picture. Everybody might say, you're crazy to buy that stock. It's 100 times earnings. You can tell them, well, you know what? I built a financial model, and it's actually only 3 times my earnings estimates in 5 years. So I'm not a tourist in stock. I'm not renting it. I'm not going to sell it because it goes down. Usually when I own stuff, if it goes down in price, I want to buy more. All right, let me put these books back. Now I messed up my entire setup here. All right. And I'm trying to mix this up every week too and just change this around a bit. What I'm doing now is, sorry about the microphone there, but hold on. What I'm in the middle of shooting right now is a green screen video. All right, it's kind of complicated, but I love a challenge always. And the video I'm shooting actually is part of this complete video course. And I'm recreating the entire Kennedy 1963 incident in Texas, in Houston. And I'm teaching you about frames per second and how videography works. I've got a treadmill, which I painted green. Oh, by the way to paint a treadmill green for green screen reasons is you turn it on and you put the big roller on it with green paint. No? Dad humor? Sorry, I'll stop now. But I'm also, and I've got actually the exact same camera that Abraham Zapruder used to film the Kennedy incident in 1963. We're going to edit out all the bad parts, obviously. But I want to teach you videography that way. It's fun that way too. And you'll never forget it. And by the same token, what I'm doing for my MBA degree program is I'm going to use my green screen. And I'm actually going to walk to a lot of different tech headquarters here in the Bay Area. And I'm going to say, okay, now let's walk together. I'll be on my treadmill to Apple's new headquarters. And let's take a tour. And let's discuss why Apple is successful. Let's now walk together to Facebook's headquarters. And let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg, that sort of thing. So what I'm trying to do is I want to make it kind of a cinematic, humble to say, masterpiece so that it's edutaining. I want to teach in ways that have never been taught before. That's why I don't have to research other people when I decide on how to teach. I just want to make it so innovative, so unique, and so fun for you, the customer, that you're going to learn by accident. It's going to be edutaining, which is my license plate, the word edutain. All right, next up is, good morning, Chris. Hope you're doing well, from Rohit. Thank you, Rohit. Appreciate it. And thanks for that question on Microsoft last week or the week before. I enjoyed answering that one. Thank you. All right, Mr. Wright is saying, many banks are adopting Ripple. The price is staying in the 40-cent range. Yeah. You know what, dude? I don't think the market's always right. And I never care what prices are today. All I care is what prices are going to be in 5 years. Remember, I don't know the path, but I know the destination, that sort of thing. Do your own due diligence on this one. And, if you feel comfortable with it and you think it's undervalued, then make it a full position. And I don't recommend having more than just a couple % of your net worth, liquid net worth, ever in one cryptocurrency. Okay. Because I think a lot of them are fraudulent. And if it takes off anyway, if you own a couple %, you're going to make a fortune in it anyway, which will really move the needle in terms of your liquid net worth. And I say liquid net worth because I talk about how much money you should invest outside of your house or apartment, which is the most important investment you'll ever make. All right. So Kilo is saying, sometimes I feel like something is stopping me. It is definitely not procrastination, but something else I feel meh. How do I deal with this kind of feeling? It's not letting me do my best. Yeah. So Kilo, I would write down just your goals. Okay. And you can take my course, 30-day challenge to a more productive, much happier you, where I alter your nutrition, your outlook on life, the way you deal with people, as well as your daily scheduling and your goal setting. And so I've talked a lot about goal setting. We've done goal setting workshops together on this weekly call. But in my course, the 30-day challenge to a more productive and much happier you, I take it to the extreme, right? In terms, there's a massive goal setting workshop, and there's also a big book I included as well, which will help you to see if you can get the 30 days done. And I have a 30-day money-back guarantee on all my courses. On that one, I'll make it lifetime guarantee because it might take you longer than 30 days to do it. Yeah, but try that out, and I promise you will get great results. And if you don't, let me know, and I'll find a way to make great results for you. All right, next up is Ocean O. I saw Ocean's 8 2 nights ago. I was watching on the HBO app, which is pretty good, man. It's pretty good. Actually, there's it's funny. There was one scene where Sandra Bullock, she's in a store, and she just got out of jail. And she wants to shoplift, but there's cameras everywhere. Don't shoplift. But she did this. She got a bunch of cosmetic products, expensive, a couple of things, right? And she's like, she goes up to the counter. Don't do this. But she says, I'd like to return these items, please. And the clerk, the woman at the cashier says, of course. And so the woman takes them and says, oh, do you have a receipt? And Sandra Bullock says, I don't have a receipt, but these things cost a fortune. Can you just put it back on my credit card or something, or cash? And the lady says, I'm sorry, our policy is you have to have a receipt. And so Sandra Bullock said, this is ridiculous. Do you have give them back to me. And do you have a bag, which has the store's logo on it for me? And the clerk says, yeah, absolutely, here. And she goes, fine, I'll just take them out with me. And she walks out. Don't do that, but it was kind of clever. But I thought of that because Ocean's 8. Yeah. So Ocean is saying, hi, Chris. I recently graduated from college with a business administration degree. After 5 months of iOS development learning, now I'm developing a social app and trying to make it a side hustle. Hope it can be successful as a business one day in the future. I plan to go back to China in the next year to find a job in the internet industry. I don't have an engineering background and probably won't be a software engineer because it's not my expertise and I'm not super passionate about coding. Could you give me some advice on what position should I apply in the internet company to gain industry experience for my future app startup? Okay, so you're mentioning going back to China. So I think when you work for other people and other big companies, it's kind of like an extension of your education. You'll learn what to do and also, more importantly, what not to do. So I would just work at one of the large companies there. Like if you can't get a job at Jack Ma's company, Alibaba or Baidu or Tencent, and just get experience there and learn as much about business as you can. And that will give you more credibility too, so that when you do start your company, it'll be easier for you to raise money because you're more credible because you worked at these great brand names, Baidu, Tencent, etc. And if I didn't answer your question correctly, please let me know. Thank you. All right. So Kartik is saying, I want to use OBS software for screen recording, but every time a black screen appears, any suggestions? So for those of you not familiar with OBS, it stands for Open Broadcast Software. And it's kind of like Wirecast, what I'm using right now to make this broadcast. Except Wirecast you have to pay for, and it's more intuitive, and it's just a better product. OBS is open source. It's like Unix or Linux. It's free. Okay, and so those of you that have played around with Unix or Linux software, yeah, it's free, but it's kind of tough to tweak it. So I recommend paying for Wirecast if you can. And you can get a free version, and there's a lower tier price one as well. And I teach you how to use Wirecast from scratch in this complete video course of mine coming out soon. If you're in my MBA degree program, you don't have to pay for that course because you're going to get everything for free from me forever, meaning every course I ever make. And I'm doing that as an incentive just for the first class. Then I'll have some sort of subscription platform, I guess. So you're saying you can't get screen recording to work. Yeah, I've had problems with OBS as well. So here's what I recommend, okay? If you want to do a screen record for free, don't use OBS. What you can do is if you have a Mac, you can use QuickTime and just go new screen recording. Or if you have Windows, just use PowerPoint. I know that sounds crazy, but the Windows version of PowerPoint lets you do a screen record. You just go to insert video or screen recording, and you can select what part of the screen you want to record. So that's what I recommend doing. And even in the Mac, what you can do now is new version of the operating system. I can hit Command Shift the number 5, and then at the bottom I can select which part of the screen to record. And if you have additional questions about that, or if I did not answer your question correctly, please let me know. All right, Mr. Wright is saying, many people who fantasize about XRP, which is the ticker for a cryptocurrency called Ripple. Many people who fantasize about Ripple connect dots based on internal projections of their fantasy about the coin. What are some things to look at when forecasting the price of a cryptocurrency? Yeah, it's so hard to forecast the price of a crypto, but a lot of it is going to come down to two factors. Number one, what are the maximum number of shares that can ever be created for that cryptocurrency Ripple? For example, with Bitcoin, it's 21 million. And number two, what percent market share do you think that cryptocurrency will get of the entire cryptocurrency market? And it's not easy to do, and there's a lot of unknowns. And whenever you're modeling a company, you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. And that's why finance is more of an art, because you got to be, you got a palette, which is your financial model, and you're kind of forecasting the future. It's fun, like a crystal ball. Whereas accounting is more of a science. It's backwards looking. So you got to put on your finance hat when you're coming up with how to value cryptocurrencies. And I'm so sorry to mention this, but I recommend just taking the entire complete cryptocurrency course, because I have a 49-step process in Microsoft Excel that will help you quantify the target price of Ripple or any security. And it's a very, very long-winded answer. The course is 24 hours long. I know it's overkill, but I don't care about making money on it. I just want to humbly help if I can. So take that course, please. And if it doesn't help you, I'll give you a lifetime guarantee, money-back guarantee. So what you do is just go to my website, harounventures.com. You can scroll down and get all my courses for the cheapest price out there. Yeah. Thanks. All right. Next up is Dawn is saying, what is the title of the second place? Okay. And that's probably with respect to earlier on, I was talking about whenever a company goes public, they issue an S1 or a prospectus. Okay, and you can get this at sec.gov for any company that went public. So this is Goldman Sachs IPO prospectus that I kept from 1999 when I worked there. And what happens usually is the top left is the name of the company that's leading the IPO, okay, the book runner, okay? And this here is top right. They just call it top right. And in this case, you don't have top left and top right because Goldman was the lead book runner by themselves because they took themselves public kind of with the help from these investment banks. So top left, top right. That's the second place one, right? Top right. That's what they call it. Okay. Or you could call it the joint book runner. Okay. David is saying, sorry, I just smiled because I saw your last name Capel and I thought of Dave Chappelle, who I actually saw in concert out here, dude. He came out here to the Mountain View I can't remember the amphitheater or whatever it's called. And I laughed so hard. This was a couple of years ago. I laughed so hard that it hurt. Like I had tears in my eyes. He's so funny. His delivery is genius. So anyway. And you wrote here, Chris, wait, the last week webcast was awesome. Hollywood intro. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So earlier on the call, I said that I look at feedback and I treat all my calls and my YouTube vlogs. I take them seriously. And when there's a lot of thumbs down, I question my approach. And the customer's always right. And so I mentioned that because that vlog I had a couple of people that gave the down vote. So I thought people weren't happy with the quality. But I think what happened last week, and so for those not familiar, I recorded last week's webcast, meaning webcast 44 in my backyard with a drone. And then I had cameras set up. And I think I know why I got 3 down, whatever, it doesn't matter, but three down votes on it. So my face looked fine at the beginning. And then the light changed. Even though I was in the shade, the lighting changed and made me look a little bit overexposed. I look like Casper. So maybe that's it, but thank you for that. All right. Next one is, what is your opinion on algorithmic trading? So I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence when it comes to finance. And I think that there's going to be a number of people that are going to figure out how to use AI and code black boxes, so to speak, in order to beat the market and generate what's called alpha. Alpha means you make more than the market. And it's nerd hedge fund talk for what's your alpha? Well, if the market's up 10% and you're up 15%, your alpha is 5%. And so there's only a handful of companies that have figured out how to create these black boxes to use algorithmic trading. And one of them is Renaissance Technologies, run by a brilliant man named Jim Simmons. And they have an office out here as well in the Bay Area because his son, Jim's son, went to Berkeley. And they have a couple thousand Linux servers running in parallel. And what these Linux servers do is they pick stocks based on a ton of inputs, tons of inputs, and they'll never let us know what they are. And this company makes, like Renaissance Technologies makes like 40 or 50% almost every year. It's amazing. And the algorithm might do something like this, and they'll never let us know what's in that thing. I'm sure it's heavily guarded, heavily. But the algorithm might do things like this. If it's raining a lot this month, then short restaurant stocks, because during lunch hour, people don't like to leave their office building to go out and walk to lunch if it's raining. That sort of thing. And I'm sure there's obviously a lot more inputs that they have, but it's going to be big business, AI. And anybody interested in coding, I think you need to take courses by this guy named Kirill on Udemy. He's brilliant, really smart guy. And he teaches all about AI if you're interested from a technology perspective. But I'm a fan longer term. I think that a lot of finance jobs are going to be, and I'm vlogging about this in a couple of days, I already put on Hootsuite. But I think a lot of finance jobs are going to be disintermediated by technology, especially execution, like just traders, right? But anything sales focused will not be ever outsourced to tech, ever. And I go into more detail, not in the vlog. Just watch for it. Thanks. Great question. John Bones is saying, "Good morning, Chris. Good morning. I waste my whole day by dreaming and fantasy dreaming. It's becoming a habit now." No, I like that. Please help me. I can't focus in my class while driving, etc. Oh yeah, you got to be careful in driving. I don't think there's anything wrong with dreaming, dude. Whatever you're dreaming about, that should be your full-time profession. And you're in school. It sounds like you're younger. Whatever it is you're dreaming about, that your dreams, your mind is telling your heart what it should be doing with your life. If you love, I don't know, if you love video games, there's no reason you can't make a career out of that. It's true. You can. Maybe go work at Electronic Arts here in Redwood City. EA Sports is in the game. Go work at Activision down in the Los Angeles area, or work at Ubisoft in Montreal or in France, their headquarters, or wherever they have studios. And I just bring video games up because a lot of people are passionate about it. And a lot of people in technology that work for big tech companies that are very successful, they love video games too when they were younger. And that kind of shaped their destiny. They loved interacting with computers and coding. And I love that too. It was like a puzzle for me. It's like playing that game, Where's My Water, or Angry Birds, that sort of thing. I don't know if anyone plays those games anymore. But I think dreaming is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that's an issue at all. Whatever you dream, let's turn that dream into reality. And Picasso said, everything that you can imagine or dream is real. Perception becomes reality. So I would ask you, if you want, only if you want, John, you could share with all of us what you're dreaming about, and we can kind of walk through it and see how you can make that your career. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. I don't think we dream enough. I think what happens is after you're done with school, you start working for somebody else, and there's kind of corporate lobotomy occurs, and you just stop dreaming, and you just stop being yourself. And that's why I want all of you to have your own companies. And if I can be resourceful in any way to help make that become a reality, let me know. And what I refer to, I created this term here in the Valley called dreampreneurs. And what happens is, so the way California is set up is Southern California is where Hollywood is. Northern California is where Silicon Valley is in San Francisco. And what happens is we have these brilliant dreampreneurs in Hollywood, and they'll create these really cool tech products and movies that are so amazing. And that influences, these dreampreneurs influence the venture capitalists and the tech people in Northern California and around the world as well. And there's Bollywood too and other great areas. They'll influence people to start companies and innovate and make those products a reality. Those dreampreneurs influence the North. And so, great examples of this include the movie, the Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg movie in 2002 called Minority Report, it blew my mind. And that had such a prophetic impact on technology user design a decade later. Like screen swiping, right? That's you have that on Apple iPads and Android tablets as well. The visual dragging and dropping of stuff, that's virtual reality. That's now reality. It's true. It's out there. It's amazing. I've got the PlayStation VR set here, and we're playing that game Creed, which is dope. You get to fight Rocky and Mr. T with the mohawk and everything. It's awesome. And even more recently, the movie Her, which is kind of out there, but it's a good movie anyway, with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin Phoenix. I can never say his first name. That's had a huge impact as well. Those dreampreneurs have influenced us because now, voice-based technologies are prevalent. And why should you see, feel, or have to touch the operating system? Especially you while you're driving, you said you dream. Obviously really focus on the road, but you can talk to Siri or Alexa or Google Voice, whatever it is. And if you can dream, it becomes reality. It does. It just takes time. No one that's ever changed the world or reinvented an industry didn't dream. I want you to dream big, and then I want you to dream even bigger. And if you're having problems like focusing because you're dreaming all the time and you got to pay attention in class and stuff or whatever it is, then it might be just a reflection of time management. And what I do is I schedule every day except weekends. And just go to my website, harounventures.com/schedule, all lowercase schedule, and download my one-page template that I use to schedule each day. And that keeps me more focused. I still dream a lot, but that keeps me more focused so I can get more stuff done. You'll find if you schedule each day, you will get tons more stuff done. All right. Hold on a second. Okay, so Kyla is saying, thanks a lot, Chris. I really love this outlet for asking questions. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you. This is fun for me. I love it. That's why I never check what time it is. It's like when you go to a movie and it's such a good movie that you didn't look at your watch the whole time. I find that the measure of a movie that's only okay is how many times I check my watch. So I'm going to check my watch right now, actually, just for fun. All right, we've been doing 2 hours and 43 minutes, which is longer than most movies, except for maybe Titanic and a couple other long ones. Yeah, this is fun for me. This is great. Yeah, I don't have a job. I have a passion. This is fun. And I want to teach all of you how to start your own company too. I want you to be independent because we weren't meant to work for other people. I don't swear that often, but I'm going to now. There's nothing worse than spending the rest of your life being someone else's bitch. And I want to inspire you all and help you all humbly if I can start your own company so you can really live your life in your own terms. Otherwise, what happens is you become an old person and you wake up one day and you realize you're working for some jerk who's paying you this much money to make their dreams become a reality. I want to help you make your dreams become real by starting your own companies. All right. Next up is Maz, who's saying, hi, Chris. How are you, brother? I'm awesome. Thank you for asking. I free my schedule on Thursday to join your webcast. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome as always. Thank you. My question is, how can I improve writing using technology? Yeah, that's a good question. So what I recommend doing is you can use Grammarly if you want. I'll give you a couple rules. So obviously spell check, I don't have to go there, you get it. But there's also grammar check within Microsoft Word, which helps you understand commas and all that stuff, which I still have issues with. Never make anything you write, never put more than 3 sentences in one paragraph. And I learned that when I had my Inc. column. And you can search my name and Inc.com and you can see all my articles. You'll see that all of them had 3 sentences per paragraph maximum. And your title, because you're fighting for people's attention, your title of your articles or the subject lines of emails, whatever, quite often they can be in the form of a question. You know, like I published a vlog a couple days ago, which was, is money the root of all evil? ? You can also put numbers. People love numbers and lists. You know, 3 ways to take your career to the next level, or 4 ways to tell if somebody is lying, which I've vlogged about recently. And I teach about in my entire MBA course. So this is just some of the basic rules. But what you can also do is, if you take my complete job course, there's a section there where I teach you how to write like a professional journalist. And actually, you don't even have to pay for that. Just go to my my vlog and do a search on writing. And I think I have a vlog on that will help you to write a lot better. Sorry, dad humor. All right. Next up is, and if anybody has any suggestions on the call here in terms of how moms can write better leveraging technology, let me know, please. There's tons of apps out there. I actually go to, whenever I'm creating courses, I go to speechinminutes.com. And what speechinminutes.com is, it will tell me how many minutes my lectures are. So I script everything. And then obviously I highlight all that stuff, and then I see the word count. And then I go to speechinminutes.com and I enter in the number of words, and it'll tell me how long that lecture is going to be. So I try to keep each lecture quite short. Less is more. And when you're writing, keep it short. Always keep it short. You know, never write an email with more than just a couple lines of text, because people won't finish it. You know, they won't finish it. You know, it's intimidating trying to read. Like the worst is, I hate to say it, Mom, I love you so much. But I feel bad sometimes. So I'll get these long emails from my mom. And yeah, I'll pour my heart in them and write long ones too back. But I'm not going there. Love you, Mom, if you're watching. All right. DL is saying, I'm working on starting my business, which is accounting and bookkeeping. It's been a challenge, though, due to so much information out there. Okay. Yeah, what I recommend doing is take my complete business plan course, because I'll help you create a rock solid business model, and I'll help you filter out the noise from the important stuff, so you can understand qualitatively and quantitatively what your business model needs to look like, to take your company to the next level. Even if you've already established a company, it'll help a lot. All right. David is saying, hi, Chris. When are you coming to Berlin? Yeah. So thanks for asking. So I'm going to be there. So go to udemylive.com. That's Udemy, live.com. And you'll see the dates when I'm in Berlin. And I'm coming like a day or two early. And I'm actually going to do because I'm never going to go a week without doing my webcast. I'm going to do it there. And so I'm staying at the Four Seasons. And I booked it way in advance with a high-speed internet room. And I'm going to do my weekly call there. It's my commitment to you, all of my students. So when I do it, let me know. What I might do then is I might set up a bunch of chairs in that hotel room, or I'll ask maybe the person at the front desk to set up a room where I can do it and have a live studio audience there. Maybe I'll rent a conference room. Let me know if you're interested. Just send messages over LinkedIn and let me know, please. And maybe I'll set that up as well. And regardless, let's meet when I'm there if you have time. Yeah, I get there a couple days before the conference starts. Yeah. And by the way, I look at every LinkedIn message, but it takes me time to get back sometimes. And please don't be offended if I don't. The best way to ask me questions is on this call. Okay. I feel bad because I don't get back to every message because I'm so inundated with thousands and thousands of messages. I've got, over 600,000 customers around the world now. It's tough to keep up. I'm drowning, but the best way to reach me is right here. Or if you want one-on-one time, it'll be for the MBA Degree Program, which will launch later this year. Thank you. Yeah. And DL is saying, I'm a software developer. Upwork is better than Fiverr. I totally agree. So Fiverr.com is where you go to get simplistic stuff created, like a cover for your book, which I do a lot, or other things. Like, for example, I hired somebody on Fiverr the other day to do the sound of Will Ferrell saying a lot of things, because I'm going to use that in my videography course, which is coming out soon. Will Ferrell says things like, we're going streaking. And I'll show you how to avoid streaks in when you're taking videos and that sort of thing. So if you haven't seen the movie Old School, you have to see it. It's recommended. All right. And I agree with you. Upwork is better than Fiverr. Upwork, I use Upwork as well. Sometimes for video stuff. I find it's more expensive, but the quality of people is much, much better as well. You get what you pay for. That's true. And you're saying meetups.com are excellent. Meetup.com are excellent because you can query as you network to really hash out what you need in a developer before hiring. It's true. It's true. Yeah. And always ask developers for samples of their work. Like, I get approached a lot with, and I don't respond to most of them just because I get a lot of inbounds. I can't keep up of people that, will say that they've developed websites and they want to develop my 50 business plan course template online. I'll always ask for, show me some of your prior work, and they never respond. So I always ask for references first and stuff they've done in the past. Yeah. You don't want them to learn on your nickel. All right. DL is saying, do you teach how to come up with curriculum ideas? I thought about teaching the basics of software development and accounting basics, but not sure where to start. Yeah, just teach online, man. Teach online. Here's where you start. So I have an accounting course. What I want you to do is go to my course, Introduction to Finance, Accounting, Modeling, Valuation, and look at the reviews, but only look at the 1-star and 2-star reviews of that course, and find out what issues students have with my course, and make a course that's better based on student feedback. Yeah, but I wouldn't teach accounting and software development in the same course. I kind of do them separately. And if you want to understand how to make a great tech course, just check out Rob Percival's courses on Udemy, or Angela Yu as well. They're both amazing. Yeah, their delivery is amazing. The organization's off the charts. And if you want to learn how to make a Udemy course in general, every year I publish a course that's free called 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course. So you can check out the past couple of years worth of those courses. And I teach you based on 40 mistakes I've made in the past year so you can work smarter, not harder when teaching online. And I translate my original version of that course into 12 languages as well. It's free. It's free. I really believe that education fixes every problem in the world. And I think being a teacher online is the best gig out there. And I want more of you to do it. And I'm not affiliated with Udemy in any way in terms of making people teach online or encouraging them to. It's just, it's life-changing. And I think it's the best side hustle you can ever have. And I want to be resourceful and help you do it as well. Yeah. And Melody and Patrick, I think you're on the call. I scrolled down, I saw your names. Melody and Patrick, and I'll get your questions soon. Melody and Patrick are creating their own courses as well. And yeah, anyway, and let me know, guys, how those courses are going. I'm here to help if I can, humbly. All right. All right. Next one is Jenny, who's saying, happy Thursday, Chris. Happy Thursday. Right back at you, Jenny. Now I've got the movie Forrest Gump in my head. I applied your advice. Don't care about what other people think for a week. It was a little hard at first, but it started to work and I feel much better. Thanks. Awesome. Awesome, Jenny. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. The second we start caring what other people think about us, is the second our life goes into a downward spiral. You know, I'm not telling you to be rude or disingenuous, but just don't give a damn what people think of you. And nobody's ever accomplished amazing things in life by being, and I'm criticizing myself when I was in my 20s, by being insecure. If you're insecure and you care what other people think of you, you're going to be so focused and waste so much time thinking about, you know, how to impress other people or please other people that you'll never have enough time to become successful and make yourself happy. And I think that, you know, one of your goals in life should be, how can I make myself happier? And a lot of that comes with just not giving a damn what people think of you. You know, so I get criticized unfairly a lot just because I'm online. I teach online, and at first I used to get kind of sensitive about it, but now if it's valid feedback, I'm not crying, just wiping out the perspiration. If it's valid feedback, that's cool. I get it. But sometimes people will criticize me personally. Even, you know, harassing texts and stuff and whatever. What I think about is from strangers. I know it's weird. I just tell myself unjustified criticism is nothing more than a disguised compliment. So bring it on. So yeah, and when I was younger, I didn't think that way. You know, I was sensitive about everything. I was very patient. You know, I gave friends like 5 strikes before they're out. Now it's 1 strike, you're out forever. And I just don't care. I don't care what people like. I got up this morning and I was getting dressed, and I thought, if I wear this MTV shirt, well, it might not look professional. And then I said, you know, I just don't care. This is me. You know, people love me and people love you for who you are. So just keep being yourself. You know, it sucks when you start working for other people, you start getting all political and, you know, you'll be in the elevator with a senior executive and you're uncomfortable. No one talks in elevators. And then you think really hard what to say. And afterwards you think, did I say the right thing? Did that person think better of me or worse? Gosh, just tell yourself you don't care. And you know what, dude, when you talk to senior executives at work, it's going to be respectful, obviously, to every human being. But if you treat them differently than you would treat anybody else at the company or anybody else you know, they lose respect for you. They actually feel really uncomfortable. And your peers lose respect for you as well. Just be you. You've gotten this far in life being you. So don't try to be somebody else. And you don't want to spend the rest of your life being someone else's prisoner in your mind by trying to please them. You know, please yourself by just doing what you love doing in work and never care what people think of you. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll be like, okay, I got good grades in undergrad. I want to go to Harvard Law School because, you know, it's a great school and people will think better of me. And then you go to Harvard Law School or whatever law school it is. And you realize, oh my God, do you become a jerk before you go to law school or after you go to law school? I'm talking about myself here. I went down to Harvard Law and looked into it when I was younger. And I remember I just read a book by Scott Turow called 1L about this dude who went to Harvard Law. And I kind of questioned, why do I want to be a lawyer? And I think I was insecure at that time. My older brother is a doctor. And in order to please my parents, my dad's a doctor too. I thought, well, maybe being a lawyer would be cool as well, you know? But then I decided that, and I looked at med school too. And I went to hospitals and, you know, tried to look. I wasn't passionate about it, but I loved helping people still. I didn't like being around blood and stuff. And with law stuff, I want to be a lawyer, whatever. I just saw that movie, A Few Good Men. You Can't Handle the Truth with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And I read all the John Grisham books. And then I wrote the LSAT and I went down to Harvard Law like I'd ever get in, whatever, and visited other schools. I'm like, this is torture. Like, why do I want to be a lawyer? Why would I want to be around those people? You know, if you're a civil rights lawyer, I love you. But otherwise, you know. And then I realized that I was insecure and I wanted to be a lawyer just to impress other people, I guess. And I was concerned about status. F that, man. F that. Do you know of any happy lawyers? I don't. Just do what you're most passionate about in life and never give a damn what anybody thinks of you. And then you'll reach this scary, awesome level of happiness, like insane euphoria. Like the euphoria when you hold, and for those of you who don't have kids yet, when you hold your child for the first time, you're going to feel a level of happiness and euphoria that you didn't know that you could feel. It's awesome. And when you do what you love doing every day in your life, meaning do something with this first before thinking with this, if that's your profession, you're going to have a kind of similar euphoric feeling every second of every day. Not the same as carrying your child for the first time, but it will create endless possibilities for you. And, you know, you'll have a well-rounded life and you'll be happy and feel like you're contributing something to society. And if you're happy, you can do great things. And, you know, cut everybody off in your life with a negative attitude. That's right. They're bringing you down. We're all a product of our environments. So anyway, you are who you hang out with, but just do what you love doing and don't give a damn what other people think of you. And only then will you truly have, you know, peace of mind. All right. And no one's ever been successful in life by trying to please other people. They just don't care. That's my ringtone. Hey, listen to that. Oh, damn it. Now we're going to be blocked on this, the webcast, because of that copyright thing. Damn it. Hopefully it's not. Sorry, that little ringtone was Welcome to the New Age. I love that song, Radioactive. And actually, I know it's a little off topic, but it's important for me personally to mention. I went to a Tony Robbins event in 2015 called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. And he played that song. And that event changed my life, by the way. Don't waste your money in my courses. Like go to a Tony Robbins event. It'll change everything for you. It's amazing. Guy's incredible. But anyway, this was one of the songs he had at that event, Welcome to the New Age, which is Welcome to the New Me, I guess. And I still have it as my ringtone, even though it scared the crap out of me just there. All right. Yeah, so anyone who's ever started their own company, they never care what people think of them. And they're positive people too. So surround yourself with positive people and just don't give a damn what people think of you. You know, Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are, number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. Find out why you're here. You know, if I told you that you're going to be given a month off, starting tomorrow, you can't go to school, you can't work, you can't travel. What are you going to do with your time? What would you do for free? That's your purpose. That's what you should be doing full time. Okay, and then Jenny's got a follow-up here. I watched your video saying, cut the people off who affect you negatively. And I agree with you so much. But what would you do with those people who are related to family or hard to just cut off? Ooh, this is hard. This is work that's tough for me. So I'm fortunate that I love all my family. But if there are certain people, aside from your parents, if there are certain people in your family that do nothing but make you feel crappy about yourself, see ya, but I wouldn't want to be ya. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. I know it sucks around the holidays. Yet maybe you have to be around them, but just suck it up. Oh, and tell yourself this too. If they unjustly criticize you, it's because they're jealous. Just tell yourself unjustified criticism is nothing more than a disguised compliment. And so a lot of times when people criticize me, actually I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I don't say this, but I think to myself, you're so insecure about yourself and your limited abilities that you're complimenting me. Thank you for that. Bring it on. Yeah. But it's tough though. I hear you. It's tough. It's tough, but you can do it. You can do it. All right. And I don't know, man. Like I think one of the reasons we're alive is not only to make the world a better place, but to be the best versions of ourselves. And to be the best version of yourself, you got to think with this, and you got to be happy. So whatever it takes to make you happier, do. And if somebody around you, even a family member, brings you down, makes you unhappy, makes you feel crappy about yourself, see ya. All right. And I'm sorry. Some of the stuff I say is controversial. I know. I get it. I get it. But I'm thinking with this first. Otherwise, this won't work as well. All right. And so this microphone I'm using now, my neighbor who always cuts his grass on Thursday because I do my webcast, maybe, he cuts his grass. I don't think you can hear it because I'm using this microphone. I was told that if I talk closer to this, the voice quality is better, but it's comfortable like this for me. If anyone has questions or issues with that, just let me know. Okay. All right. Next up is, what are the best ways to raise funds to start a small business without friends and family? Yeah. And don't raise money from friends and family. I've done it before, dude. People are weird when it comes to money. I've made friends money, a lot of money, and I've lost a friend money. And the problem is that person's not my friend anymore. It sucks. What can you do? What can you do? People become mean when it comes to money. So don't raise money from friends and family, please, ever, because you'll lose them. You'll lose them, yeah. Even if you make the money. So what I would do is, it's kind of a long answer. So go to my vlog and do a search on raising money, because I gave a 1-hour presentation, which I recorded to every year this MBA school from Paris comes here to San Francisco called HEC. And I give them a presentation every year. And I recorded it this year on how to raise money. So check that one out if you want. Don't take my course on fundraising on Udemy. Just watch that one instead. I might take down that course. It was one of my earlier courses. I'm not that proud of it. Yeah. All right. And make sure that you read DL, my book on networking, okay, on my website, harounventures.com. It's a free download, networking. And that will help you a lot in terms of raising money. Yeah. And just remember that relationships are more important than product knowledge. You always want to bond with people before ever talking business, because people want to do business with people they feel comfortable with too, and people they enjoy their conversation as well. So, yeah. So John from Rochester, New York is asking, what do you feel about the Motley Fool team? And so for those who are not familiar with Motley Fool, it's these two guys that wear these jester hats that they pick stocks. And they did really well in the late 90s with a stock in a company called iOmega, which used to make those external drives with high capacity. That business got commoditized though. And I don't like taking their advice. They sound entertaining, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not, but they own those stocks as well. And I always want you to always do your own research. You don't need to rely on anybody else. And, part of my mission teaching here is to provide you with all the tools in all the arrows, right? So you can basically, pick your own stocks and be self-sufficient. I'll teach you how to fish. I'll never give you a fish. And don't ever take advice from anybody else ever. Otherwise, what will happen is you're going to get burnt. You're going to get burnt, right? And so I mentioned this earlier in the call. This book here called When Genius Failed is about these Nobel laureates, the smartest people in the world, that created a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund that blew up. It was such a spectacular blow up in a bad way in Connecticut back in the late 90s that it almost pulled the U.S. into a recession. The government actually had to talk them and talk bailout talk for a while, but genius certainly failed there. And nobody is smarter than you. Watch that video, please, by Steve Jobs. Search YouTube for Steve Jobs Smarter Than You. That video will change your life. So anyway, don't take advice from Motley Fool or anybody else or CNBC or Kramer or any of these people. I want you to do your own work. Always, always, always do your own work. Don't believe me? Go to YouTube and do a search for Jim Cramer, Bear Stearns. Just watch that video. All right. Thank you, Prashant. Appreciate that. Kevin, how are you? Kevin is saying, Chris, I was excited to hear in an earlier webcast that you're a reader at OLA. Wow. So OLA is actually Our Lady of Angels. It's the Catholic church I read at here in Burlingame, California. I read probably once a month at 5 p.m. on a Saturday. That's when they schedule me. Yeah. Thank you for that. And you wrote here, Kevin's writing, I was a youth leader for one of their youth retreats a few years ago. That's awesome. Kevin, come and introduce yourself, man. If you ever see me reading up there, okay? Yeah. And actually, so I want to talk a couple things about that. I'm not going to get all religious on anybody here. It's not my intent. But I was so scared of public speaking. And I went into the Redwood City prison system through a church. It wasn't a religious thing, just to help these students out or these kids out that had deadbeat fathers. No such thing as a deadbeat mother. And I've talked about in previous webcasts how I had to give a speech in jail that day. It's kind of changed my life. But what I also did was this. I was so terrified of public speaking that when I moved to New York City, there's a big church there where I volunteered, and there's like 1,000 people in the audience every week. I volunteered to do just the readings from the text. And I did that because I thought, man, if I'm going to conquer my fear, this is the place to do it. This is the place to do it. So if any of you can get involved in whatever religious institution it is you're a part of, and just start doing those readings from whatever text it might be in your religion, I recommend doing that. It'll make you feel more comfortable in the most comforting place on the planet for you. Yeah, so I would do that. But I read, Kevin, a piece actually, and it was kind of, so Father Michael was there, and I did something that no one's ever done before. I was reading this religious text, and part of it was, and people were talking about this a bunch, part of the text was how women are property of men. And I was reading it, and I didn't know I was reading that passage, and I stopped reading it halfway through. And I said, and I criticized that text. I did it tactfully, and for those of you that are Christian, you might know what text or what book that's from. And then Father Michael was really cool about it, and they actually addressed it. And so, I think when this is dangerous, but I think when it comes to religious texts, and I'm a religious man, you kind of have to interpret things your own way sometimes, so I'll leave it at that. But if anybody wants to talk about that in more detail, I'm an open book. I'm happy to do so. But I remember, Kevin, I was doing that reading, and I stopped it, and I expressed how I disagree with just that reading. No filter. All right. So Kevin has a question. Kevin is saying, and I'm tickled pink that you're a member of the parish. Please come and see me one day when I'm talking there. My question is on being nice and business. You're clearly a very nice person. I'm a nice actor. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. How do you personally prevent that niceness being taken advantage of by others in business? That's a great question, Kevin. And I used to think that I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be because of that. I thought, is kindness a sign of weakness? And, I always loved to give. And whenever I worked for other people, I'd always, do well, whatever. I worked hard and beat my quota. But there would always be an uncomfortable conversation where my boss would sit down with me. It was really uncomfortable for all of them to say this. And they're all nice people, most of them, except one. I won't say who. But they, they would always say, Chris, you're doing a great job. But maybe you could spend a little bit less time mentoring people. Because I would put that first, and it's just the way I am. And I thought maybe kindness is a sign of weakness and holding me back. But then I realized something, that I read this book called Givers and Takers. It's a Harvard Business School book. And the poorest 1% of people in the world are givers. Beautiful people like Mother Teresa. And by the way, Kevin, if you walk into the church on the right side in that long hallway, there's a wonderful picture of Mother Teresa, which one of the Sierra graduates took. She just got sainted. So the poorest 1% are people that are givers. The middle 98% of people in the world are takers. Most people take. And then the top 1% of people in the world, wealth-wise, whatever, are givers. And they give with their heart. And what happens is, if you give with your heart and you really want to help people and you do it for good reasons, it all comes back to help you in the long run. Call it karma, call it what you will. And so a lot of the best investment decisions I've made in my life have been because I've helped to mentor people and change their lives. And they've called me up and given me a stock tip or whatever it might be. But it's helped me big time, more so than anything else, more so than any degree I have or any other big company I've worked for. It's helped me out a lot. Karma, synchronicity, or whatever you might want to call it. But just give and you will receive. It's been true and prophetic since the beginning of time. And that's what networking is too. So if you read my networking book, go to harounventures.com and read my networking book. I teach you how, if you give, you will receive a lot. And when you go to meetings with people, informational meetings or interviews, whatever it is, just understand that people are motivated by three things. They want to make more money, they want to get promoted faster, and they want to enjoy who they work with. Well, you can just kind of talk about life when you get to that interview and just connect with them on a personal level. And I'm not saying be disingenuous, but you can do it. You can go to their Twitter profile and see who they follow, because they probably follow sports teams and fun stuff you can talk about. And then in terms of helping them make more money or get promoted, whatever, if you take my complete job course, I teach you how to create one-page templates. And those one-page templates are used to give to the person you're interviewing with to help them take their career to the next level. I know it sounds out there, but for example, if you're interviewing with somebody that is working in sales, if before that interview, you go out and you network and find 5 people that could be potential customers of this person you're interviewing with, or you already know 5 people that might be customers, I want you to bring a piece of paper and give it to that salesperson during your meeting that has the names of these 5 people that might be customers and their phone numbers or email addresses or profiles or LinkedIn contact, and tell them you'd be happy to introduce them to them. Okay. Who does that? And how badly do you want that job? But if you give, even if you don't get that job, what happens is they'll remember you. And the next time they're hiring, or if they know a friend that might be hiring, they'll refer you to that person because you've given with your heart. You're trying to help them. And I have one-page templates in that complete job course for sales roles, for operations, for HR, for finance, for investing, everything, even technology. And if you have questions about that on this webcast, anybody let me know. And I'd be more than happy to humbly give you my thoughts on how to add value. But if you give, you will receive. Again, it's prophetic and it's been true since the very beginning of time. So kindness is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of long-term career strength, so to speak. And that's probably not a good analogy of it, but I think you get the idea. And what happens is this: when you mentor other people, when one teaches, two learn. You're kind of reinforcing what your core ethical and best practices are in your life, and reminding yourself, when one teaches, two learn. All right. Melody in the house. So Melody is a teacher as well, and she's in the process of putting a lot of her courses online. Kevin, thank you for that. And I want to meet you one day, man. Thank you. And I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers to my comment. I don't think I did. Good. All right. So Melody is saying, Kevin, it's a great question. I agree. And Melody is saying, hi, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. Sorry I could not join in the beginning. In the middle of caulking and painting my house with the kids. For those of you not familiar with caulking, basically it means, when you have floorboards or crayon molding, you put this special stuff with that gun that dries up, and then you paint over it. Make sure you use blue painter's tape, Melody. All right. That's awesome you do it with the kids. I actually vlogged about that, dude. I painted a green screen back here with my son, Andrew. It was a father and son vlog, and you go check it out if you want. It was fun. And we did a drone shot as well. And I let Andrew use the drone in that vlog a couple months ago, and he lost the drone. Like, it wouldn't come down. Like, it went up so high. And we were nervous, and I didn't edit anything as well. It's kind of funny. But actually, you have to register with the government now if you want to get a drone, which I've done with the FAA. And you can't really fly it anywhere anymore. It sucks, right? But I understand for whatever reasons. And I have a buddy that that heads up the San Francisco Giants. And he told me that they have a drone there, right? He just became Larry Baird had to step down, whatever. And this guy told me they have a drone there, and a lot of stadiums have drones as well, not just San Francisco Giants. And what happens is there are super drones in a lot of stadiums. You just don't know about them. And they exist with lots of propellers on them. They're badass drones. And their purpose is to stop bad things from happening, like dirty bombs. And so what happens is these super drones, and a lot of people know about this, these super drones have spider webs, right? It's like Spider-Man. And if a drone is carrying something, what happens is these drones go out to it, throw a web around it, and quickly take it out to the middle of the ocean. Yeah. So anyway, but I do teach a section on how to fly drones and stuff in my course, which is coming out soon, the videography course. Sorry for going off topic there. Oh, you can't. Okay, you're saying to me, for some reason, YouTube won't allow me to stream from Google Home. I don't know what that means. Maybe that you have a separate Google Home device. I'm not sure. You can always stream on your iPhone or Android handset, if that's what you mean. If not, let me know, please. And Melly's also saying, I did the homework while painting. I finished the book, Win Friends and Influence People. It was the best book I ever read. Man, I solved 100 problems reading and hearing the audio. Give me 1 second. Here it is right here. This book is a life changer. Okay. Everybody has got to read this on this call. This is homework, okay? And this book was written by a brilliant man named Dale Carnegie in the 1930s. It's old school, but human nature and human relations stuff has not changed since. It will tell you how to deal with people, how to get stuff done, how to get people to do their job because they want to do it. It'll teach you how to bond with people as well, right? Read this book cover to cover, please, or get the audio book and listen to it. Go to audible.com if you want to. It's a great book. It is life-changing. You got to read this, everybody. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I know it's a bizarre title, but it works. It works. Because people are creatures of emotion and not creatures of logic. Read that book. That'll make more sense. Yeah, I'm glad you read it or did the audiobook, Melody. Awesome. I got to listen to it again, actually. It's been a couple of years since I've read that one. Yeah. And Jason from Australia is saying, thanks again, Chris. Time to sign off and do some learning. I sent an email about the MBA application. Thank you. Thank you. And Wrigley will take care of that. Wrigley works with me. For those of you that were on the webcast a couple weeks ago, or if you didn't see the webcast, watch it. Wrigley was on it with me. It was fun. I got to finally introduce you all to one of my favorite people in the world. All right. Next up is Melody is saying, what are your thoughts on Microsoft not allowing their employees to use Google Sheets internally? I didn't know about that. That's a little bit ridiculous. I had no idea. Yeah, that's bizarre. I guess they want their employees to use Microsoft Excel. I'm surprised that got out even. Yeah. So, and Bill Gates was interviewed recently. It's so interesting. I love that guy. He's amazing. I got to meet him a couple of times. It was kind of fun when I was younger. He's a mentor to me. But Bill Gates recently was interviewed saying on what his biggest failures were running Microsoft. And he said it was Google creating Android. That should have been a Microsoft product. In Microsoft, I remember Microsoft had Windows CE, which is the handheld version of Windows, around the late 90s. I remember I had a Clio device that ran that. And then iOS and Android were created circa 2007 and destroyed that market for Microsoft. But Microsoft, Google's are one of their biggest competitors, obviously. And yeah, I know they feel threatened by Android big time, and any Google product, of which Google Sheets is one. And we use Google Sheets a lot here at my company. It's free. And also it helps us, like for all the MBA applications, when you apply and you enter in your essay, you write in your essay, Wrigley has set it up so it goes immediately to Google Sheets. It's awesome. It's free. It rocks. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that next comment, Melody. Appreciate it. What are your thoughts on creating a subscription-based service? I'm thinking of having this as a spinoff after a few courses. Yeah, you could totally do it completely. And Wall Street loves subscription business models because revenue visibility is great. And so that means this. So if you subscribe to a magazine, you got a magazine subscription, right? A lot of people are lazy like me to cancel magazine subscriptions. And so that means that revenue visibility is good, right, for that magazine company. And so Netflix is a subscription service. So is Salesforce. So is Microsoft Office 365. I think they're great. They're great because people don't feel bad spending a small amount each month, but they feel bad spending a big amount each year. So for Microsoft Office, for example, with Office 365, you can buy Microsoft Office for a couple $100, or you can rent it for, $10 a month, right? The sticker shock is not as big of a deal. So I'm a big fan of subscription business models. I'm going to create one at some point for a charity I'm working with. Still working on that. Yeah. All right. So John is saying, I just bought your personal finance and financial analyst courses. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm trying to find the time to take those rather than take my actual summer college classes. Thank you. Appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I'm very humbled to hear that. Thank you. If you have any questions while you take those courses, just write them in the course or come on to this call as well, and I'll help you with it. And if you want, in the personal finance course, I teach you how to create your own portfolio from scratch, consisting of stocks, bonds, REITs, which is a real estate investment trust, and commodities. I'm trying to slow down. I talk too fast sometimes. So if you want, you can send me that on this call and I can run through your portfolio if you want, just to help you make sure it's diversified. Thank you for that comment. Yeah. All right. So Melody is saying, I realize I need to embrace discomfort. Absolutely. Dude, you got to always run to open spaces and run to what scares you in life. If you're scared of public speaking, I promise you your competition's just as scared. So if you run towards public speaking and you embrace it and turn your biggest perceived weakness and your biggest source of joy and your biggest strength, then you can obliterate the competition. So whatever scares you in business, if it's accounting, then take my accounting courses. If it's finance, take my finance courses, and I'll teach you how to read financial statements like a good book, and I'll turn your biggest discomfort in business into your biggest sense of joy. You always want to run to your fears in life because your competition will not. And Melody is saying, also learning that sometimes you got to not care what others think. It's so true. You want to be somebody else's prisoner in your mind or their mind, right? Otherwise, you just won't have time to focus on making yourself happy. All right. And anybody that's ever changed the world, they've taken the road less traveled. They've done crazy stuff. People laughed at them. Like Bill Gates, in the late 70s, in 1976, actually, Microsoft was founded. He said, our goal at Microsoft is a PC on every desk in every home. And at that time, the digital equipment company, DEC, which got bought by Compaq, which got bought by HP, which kind of spun into two companies recently, the CEO of digital said there's only room in the world for like 4 computers. Ridiculous. And IBM had a similar comment around that time as well. People thought Bill Gates was crazy doing what he was doing. But he didn't care. If you go back and I got to show you guys are going to laugh at this one, man. All right. If you go back and take a look at early Microsoft picture, you can see that they just didn't give a damn, right? So here's what they look like. They didn't care. And this is Paul Allen, God bless him, passed away recently, the co-founder. That's Bill Gates. They don't care what they don't care what people think of them. Eventually they hired stylists. It's true, I think. But they just didn't care. Look at these lamb chops or whatever you call them. They don't care. A lot of people in tech don't give a damn what people think of them. And that's the beauty of their success blueprint, so to speak. And Mark Benioff, who is he's the founder of the largest company in San Francisco called Salesforce.com, and he's a beautiful humanitarian as well. I remember I worked in the same building as him years ago when Salesforce was private, and it was at One Market Plaza at the bottom of Market Street in San Francisco. And I would see Mark Benioff walking his dog in bare feet, beautiful Labrador, in the public auditorium on the main level. He didn't care. And I went out to dinner with him, before Salesforce was public. And I remember they brought out the meal. It's one of those fixed price things where they bring out whatever. And if he didn't want to have a certain, he wore a Hawaiian shirt and everything was awesome. Smart guy. If he didn't want to eat what they were serving next, he'd very nicely and politely put his fork and knife into an X. He doesn't care. They don't care. Elon Musk doesn't care what people think of him, despite the fact that he wants to colonize Mars. He doesn't care if people think he's crazy. At first they laugh at you and they call you crazy. Then you get a bit of success. Then they call you crazy geniuses. Then you're very successful and they say that person's a genius. So thinking differently and not giving a damn what people think about you can only help you in your career and in your level of happiness as well. If all you care about is what you think of yourself, you'll reach an awesome level of confidence, and you'll realize that you are the smartest person in the world. And do a search on YouTube for Steve Jobs. No one is smarter than you. That video is like 40 seconds. It will change your life. All right. Next up here. All right, next up is Melody, who's saying, okay, if you really want a good laugh, watch an old Bugs Bunny cartoon. I laughed so hard. My kids, I cried. Dude, you know what? It's so funny because like we're so careful like with what my kids watch, and I always go to commonsensemedia.org to see if my kids can watch certain movies, at least my youngest one, whatever. I watched some old Bugs Bunny cartoons, and it was nice. There's sedating classical music in the background. But dude, those things were violent, man. It's such an oxymoron. You have cartoons with classical music, not rock and roll, and then people beating the crap out of each other, like Roadrunner and all that stuff. Yeah. All right. So Melody is, Patrick now is saying, center light behind you is distracting. The power cord runs into your head. I'm not real. I'm being powered. I'm being powered by a power cord. Yeah. Down there. Yeah. Sorry, it's distracting you. All right. I'm an Android. All right. So Melody is saying, I'm all for video games. I play Fallout 76. Yeah, Bethesda. With my husband at least once a week. What do you play, Chris? I know you like GTA. Yeah, I love Grand Theft Auto. For such a pacifist, I know it's crazy. I like it, but dude, it is amazing. That game, like GTA 5 was made in 2013, and it still has legs. It's still awesome, and you can tell it's still kicking ass because the pricing point hasn't really been cut very much. And Fallout's fun too. So for those of you not familiar with Fallout, it's like there's a nuclear war, and you live underground, and then every now and then you come out of that bunker to get stuff to survive. It's cool. I like that game. So I when I have time, which is rarely, but I find time, I play VR now. But I also play Red Dead Redemption, which is made by Rockstar Games, or Take-Two Interactive, ticker's TTWO, which is the same company that makes Grand Theft Auto. And so I always look at the developers, even Naughty Dog Studios is the best development firm ever for video games. And they make The Last of Us, which is scary. It's like World War Z, but video game and fun. And they also make the Uncharted series. And so I'm going to be play Uncharted if you haven't yet. If you guys have a PS4, it's awesome. I'm going to be playing The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes out. And The Last of Us, that game, the character development was amazing. I'm not sure if you played that, Melody. It's really, make sure your kids are nowhere around, please. I had to play it with the lights on at night. I was so scared. It's good though. It's amazing. Good character development. Yeah. So those are just some of the games I like playing. I play VR a lot with the kids. We have this game Creed, and VR is getting good, man. I got the VR set for PS4, and I get it. I get the hype now. You can go to YouTube on your PS4, and you can search for 360-degree videos. And one of my kids loves movie Titanic and roller coasters. So he went on a roller coaster with VR on YouTube on the Titanic. It's kind of neat. It's fun. And I got to go onto a MiG fighter plane over China. I don't know how they got over China, but anyway, it's kind of fun. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. Melody's saying Minority Report was a good movie. It's funny because I told my husband the screen swiping thing was going to happen, and the VR for Creed is awesome. Your son, okay, you good? You have that then? Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. My 9-year-old, I didn't know this, but he played it and he finished the whole thing. I know, epic parenting fail. I'm careful now what he plays. So hard to block what your kids play or watch. It's everywhere, right? So, all right. I agree with DL there. And then Melody's saying, have I ever looked at Google Prime? I've not. I don't know what that is. Sorry. John is saying, what does a negative EPS mean? Like for Zynga, ticker ZNGA. Has a negative 14 cents EPS. So Zynga is a video game company here in Potrero Hill that went public, and it was supposed to be a big deal because 12% of Facebook's revenue came from Zynga with Farmville and all that stuff that nobody really plays as much anymore. And so what happened was Zynga is falling on tough times. Mark Pincus, who's the CEO, he's done a decent job, but I've had a lot of friends that have worked there, and I've gone to Potrero Hill, their headquarters, which is in the big Sega building. And dude, it is like an industrial wasteland in there. It is an awful environment. There's no windows. You feel trapped. They try to make it cool with, they got a bar and ping pong tables and stuff and a Winnebago when you walk in, but it's a really, really rough culture. And I don't think people enjoy working there. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm being very transparent. But because not as many people play Farmville and all these games on Facebook as they used to, Zynga actually is losing money. It's turning into a really, really rough business model and tough place to work. And so their earnings per share, meaning the EPS, are negative. And so when you value companies, a lot of times if you look at price to earnings ratio, you take the price of the company, all right, meaning the stock price, divided by the earnings they make per share. And the earnings per share can be negative. And that's why that price earnings multiple is negative. And so you can't really value that company that way. You have to, if you want to look at it, look at earnings in 5 or 10 years, or look at price to revenue today. If you think that company can turn around and be prosperous based on your financial model, then the PE ratio that will matter to you is not today's PE, but the PE in 5 years based on your earnings expectations in 5 years when you value that company. And the best way to value companies, I think, or at least I teach about it, whatever, is if you take my complete financial analyst course, I teach you how we value companies on Wall Street, in the venture capital sector, when I worked and started my own hedge fund, et cetera. Yeah, that'll help you understand how to value these companies. Okay, so David is saying, I sent you an email about the MBA application to my MBA degree program. It's a short one. I like to wrap it up. Yeah, less is more. That's fine. Your essay doesn't have to be that long. And you should get a response from admissions at harounventures.com. If you don't, just email again. But you should have already received it. Thank you, though. Okay. You're welcome. All right, so Patrick is saying, I'm still working on my course, his Udemy course. But as I go, it seems to grow bigger than what I thought it would be. How do you keep timing in check? It's tough, dude. It's tough. Like for me, I don't do it for money. I do it because I love it. And because I love it, sometimes I go really overboard. So you have to schedule it. You have to set a hard, fast deadline date when you're going to get it done by. And it's like when you're programming, a lot of times when you're programming or even playing around with Visual Basic or VBA, Visual Basic for applications in Excel, whatever, you create all these bells and whistles, these icons and stuff, and you keep creating more stuff. And the last 10% of a coding project takes 90% of the time. You just got to draw a line in the sand and say, what is a need to have and what is a nice to have, and eliminate all the nice to haves and just stick with the need to haves. Yeah. I hear you though. And Win-Win Capital is still saying you can still become an MD or JD. It's not too late, meaning medical doctor and Juris Doctor or law degree. Yeah, oh, thanks. Maybe the MD one day. Or PhD, which stands for plumbing, heating, and dishwashing. Oh, thanks for that. Okay, Melody's saying, Chris, you're right. I had to stop caring about what other people think. It was giving me anxiety. Then I started thinking people who really love me will love me for being original. Exactly, man. You know, your parents and your family will always love you for just being you. You know, and it's cut everybody off in your life that brings you down. Absolutely. Yeah. Unconditional love, right? I've got my kids, my teenager. I'm not cool anymore. So he's at that stage. I got 2 teenagers now, so I won't tell you which one. All right, Melody's saying, I love Tony Robbins. I read 2 of his books. Question is, what is your favorite movie? I love baseball. And so I love The Natural with Robert Redford. You know, I just get shivers right now just thinking about that ball being hit off the lights, and the Thomas Newman soundtrack. Listen to The Natural soundtrack. It's awesome. It's awesome. I remember I had the tape on my Iowa Iowa Walkman back in 1989. The tape. Yeah, I love it. I played it so much the tape stopped working. Yeah, I love baseball. It's tough though because baseball is slow. Like my kids get really bored with it, and I actually do as well lately. I can't just watch a game. I have to have my iPhone in my lap or iPad, whatever. Yeah, baseball's got a big problem. It's just slow. They got to speed it up. All right. Melly's saying, listen, don't hang around people that won't lift you up. When people start messing with me, I cut them off. I give 2 chances. That's it. Yeah. I used to give 5 strikes when I was younger. Whatever. I didn't quantify it then. And then it's like, I don't know. It's 1 strike, you're out. Yeah. Sometimes 2 strikes. You know, 1 data point doesn't make a trend, but 2 certainly does. All right. Melly is saying, you do you. I like, then you talk from your heart. Not too many people do it. Is your neighbor going to change his lawn mowing day? I should probably ask him. I should ask him. He's a good dude. Our neighbors are really quiet. It's awesome. And my kids are starting to throw parties by the pool with loud music. And, yeah. But I'd rather, like we have a pool in the backyard. I'd rather my kids get in trouble at my house than somewhere else. All right. Melody is saying, Chris, have you ever had tostones, pronounced tostones? I've not. You're saying, I only cook them once a year and they're amazing. I've never heard of it. Tostones. I'm going to an Indian restaurant this week. Did you say dos? No, not dosha. It's dosa. I see my students at school with this, usually with a dipping sauce. Yeah, dude, this is for everyone in this call. You've never eaten good food until you try dosa at an Indian restaurant. I don't know why all Indian restaurants don't have this at the top of their menu. You know, the Americanized version of Indian food is you have tandoori chicken and naan bread and all this good stuff. But when I went to, there's a school called the Halt International School of Business. I used to teach there at night. And they sent me to India to give a couple speeches. One of them was in Mumbai, and the other one was in New Delhi. And the best food I've ever had in my life. And for those of you from India, and I have a lot of friends on the call from India, you're going to laugh at me, but the best food I ever ate was at the airport in Mumbai and the airport in Delhi at Punjabi Grill, I think it was called. Yeah. And I had the dosa. It's so good. It's high in carbs, but everyone on this call, you haven't lived until you tried dosa. It's amazing. And one of my neighbors, actually, he owns an Indian truck business where he actually has food on wheels, you know, those Meals on Wheel buses, food trucks. And it's called Curry Up Now. And he serves you Indian food real fast. It's real good too. I love it. All right. And Maz is saying, just a feedback on the voice. I call it gift to you. So when I use my Power Beats, listen to your webcast, the sound is good. It doesn't matter if you're close or far from the mic. But when I'm using a wired headphone or my phone or laptop, speaker voice turns super low, 4K video. Interesting. Okay. Now, thanks for that feedback. This one's kind of tricky. You got to kind of, you'll see a lot of podcasters that will use this. They're really, really close to the microphone for ideal sound. It's a little bit tough. It's like one of these old shotgun mics that never seem to work that well for me. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. All right. it's so cool that if we had HD sound as well. Sorry if you don't like my comment. No, dude, I love you, brother, more. Thank you for that. And I appreciate it. And I love the feedback. I love the feedback. Like in my earlier webcasts, I was really pale. The color was off. And one of my students wrote that as a comment on one of the YouTube videos, and then removed the comment, retracted it. And then a couple weeks later, he came on the call again. I thanked him profusely for that. If you don't tell me, I'll never know. And I always want to push the goalpost out, and just raise the bar as much as possible. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right. And Jenny is saying, thanks, Chris, for the advice, from your heart. My pleasure. Thank you. One more question. How many times do you think it's okay to message someone on LinkedIn for advice or grabbing a coffee when you don't hear back from them? I would say 2 times is enough. First time they might have missed it. Second time they're just, 2 times is good. Yeah. Oh, Craig is here. Craig is in the house. I love it. Craig's from England, right? He's got the smartest comments. One week, Craig said that the reason in England why this is insulting, it's the version of the other half of this. Peace, that's your half, sorry. The reason why it's insulting in England is because there were wars and they had bow and arrows, and this is kind of like, hey, I'm going to get you sort of thing. Thanks for that. So Craig is saying, just found out it's Thursday again. Hey, Chris, sorry I missed last week. Hello, everybody. No, please. It's always great to have you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Oh, cool. So Melody's using a Pixel. It's awesome. I'm teaching actually from an Android device as well, my complete video course. All right, Hisham is saying, I'm a former student from San Francisco State. The best prof I ever had. Question, thank you. Appreciate it. I remember you. Thank you. Thank you. Question is, I remember you wanted to work in investment banking. I remember that, right? Yeah. And that was the main campus of San Francisco State. Question is, what's the best way to stay focused and maintain high energy levels throughout the day, so I can do my best work? Yeah, thank you for that question. Appreciate it. And great to hear from you again, buddy. It's awesome. So what I do is, in terms of focusing, you know that I do that daily schedule, which I think you've taken my course, 30-Day Challenge to a More Productive, Much Happier You. I talk about it in that course. But you can also get a free version of a more simplified version of that schedule from my website, Schedule Each Day. harounventures.com/schedule, lowercase, is where you download it from. Okay. That template will help you stay even more focused. Also, nutrition has a big deal to do with it too. So I drink this is just me, and I love to biohack a lot. I drink my bulletproof coffee. First meal of the day, it helps me out a lot, which is basically just coffee with grass-fed organic butter. I know it sounds out there, but since a couple hundred years ago, people have been putting coffee or butter in their coffee, and it helps them really focus. It's a great hack. Also, what I do is I have these blender bottles. Every Sunday, I create 7 of these with greatest hits, all the antioxidants and nutrition I can think of. It's got a lot of kale in it, whey protein. I also put omega oil, acai, mushroom extract, cinnamon. I put a lot of stuff in it. Yeah. Raw ginger root, lemon as well, and all that stuff. So this helps me out a lot. I take a lot of vitamins. I'm sure some are placebos, which I've mentioned before in this call. And then I try to drink water. I never drink enough. It's one of my biggest problems, but I try that. It helps me focus. Yeah. And I try to get 7 hours sleep, 7 or 8 hours sleep every night. Last night I got a little bit less, unfortunately. That's probably why I'm not as with it today as usual. But that helps me focus. Also exercising. I never do work at 4 o'clock at the desk. I usually like to do it on my elliptical trainer in the garage, because it kind of gives you a second win later in the day. And it kind of, I don't know, like releases endorphins or it's like Prozac or something, whatever, serotonin. It makes me happier, and I can absorb a lot more information. So those are just some hacks that I use, Hisham, to really help me with energy levels. Yeah. And you got to exercise, because if this doesn't work, this is toast. Oh, cool. All right. I love when you guys talk to each other. It's awesome. So when you guys talk to each other, I don't read that stuff. I just skip over it, but I love it. Please do more of that. It's fun. All right. Somebody's asking what mouse is this? That's how we say mouse in Canada. This is just an Apple one. It came with my my iMac Pro, which is one of the computers up there, and so did this thing as well. It's a space gray. And what I did was I put I have Velcro on the bottom of this so that when I'm done, all I do, and I got Velcro everywhere here, is I just put the stuff back underneath the desk here, and it just sticks. Then I pull it off again, and I just took off the Velcro on the mouse. Because what I found was when I was trying to mouse around, it would, this is the soft side of the Velcro here, the whole mouse would move. So, which is kind of hard when you're trying to edit stuff. Craig is saying, love is unconditional. All that changes is the expression. In other words, if we can't relate, it's okay to have a distant love. Yeah, family's forever. Okay. And then Melody's saying, I got the U mic. You recommended, and the sound is amazing. Awesome. I was outside gardening while streaming live on Instagram, and it was great. Awesome. Also used it for my podcast, and it was great sound. Yeah, and I also recommend the Blue Yeti. It's really easy to set up. You have to plug one part of it into your computer if you have the base model, because your computer will process the sound. And it works exceptionally well. And this one here is an XLR mic. And XLR mics basically have these ports here to plug into them. And you can power these mics directly from whatever your amplifier you're attaching this to. Next thing you should try if you want is a lavalier. And the best, actually, give me 1 second. I want to get a product to show you. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I just want to humbly help if I can. All right, so this is the next step I want you to look at. This works exceptionally well, and it's not that pricey. It works out great. This one here, okay, so this is called an H1N, and I use it now for all my courses. It's incredible, and then you can get any lavalier basically you want. And lavalier is just a French term, I guess, lavalier. Craig, you know the history of lavalier. I'm sure you know everything, man. Craig is like Google, man. He's brilliant. He knows everything. But I clip this on, or I used to, whatever. You see me on some webcast with it, and then you record with this device here. It's called a Zoom H1 Handy Recorder. It is awesome. It works really, really well. Yeah, and the dial in the front goes from 0 to 10. Just make it at number 5. Anyway, it works out great. And you clip it on. So that works out great for me. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Okay, looks like there's no more questions here in the podcast. So, or pardon me, in the call. So I want to thank you all for your time. If you subscribe to my vlog, I will see you mañana. If you don't subscribe to my vlog, then I will see you next Thursday at the exact same time. God bless you all. Have a great weekend, and thank you.